Chapter 762. Wenwen's mind was full of questions. In a sense, she should already be the strongest inner force martial artist in the world. She had read a lot of books and her knowledge was not comparable to that of ordinary people. However, in all the records of the books, no one had really practiced humanization. There was no reason for a martial artist to practice humanization in the form of another person. This was completely unreasonable, completely unscientific, and completely without foundation. But she couldn't tell anyone about this, let alone the fourth grandmother or the elders of the family. It was not that she wanted to hide it from anyone, but Wenwen knew very well that she didn't know the reason, and it was useless to tell others. No one could give her an answer unless Qin Guang knew something. So she picked up the phone again, and at this time, Qin Guang was already in the special car sent by the military to pick him up. "Oh, so fast?" Qin Guang asked. Wenwen didn't understand. "What's so fast?" Qin Guang's mouth twitched slightly. He knew that she was still acting her life and death, so he didn't expose her. Instead, he said in a language that only the two of them could understand, "This is Mr. Chen's psychological consultation. Dear female customer, do you need any after-sales service? I promise to be on call and you will be satisfied." F***C. Wenwen almost cursed out shyly, but she immediately controlled her tone. After all, she had been pretending to be profound not long ago. If she returned to her original self in such a short time, wouldn't she be a joke to him? Or how could she quibble with him about the so-called martial arts practice affecting her state of mind? I'm asking you where you went." After a slight cough, Wenwen cleverly changed the topic. "Oh, I got in the car. I went back to Yanjing first and then back to Wujing. School is about to start. What about you?" "Me? Maybe I can't go back to school?" Wenwen answered Qin Guang. He was also very confused. Not long ago she couldn't go back to school and she couldn't even stay in this world for long. But now, she had no idea what kind of situation she was in. As for whether she could break through the void, to hell with it. Thinking that she had made such a big mistake and thought that she was really the #1 genius in 10,000 years, Wenwen felt extremely embarrassed. Speaking up to this point, Qin Guang didn't have the mood to joke around anymore. He was rather melancholic. "That's right. After all, things are different now." Wenwen changed the topic again. "By the way, do you feel anything unusual in your body? Do you feel like you're missing something?" Qin Guang was extremely puzzled. "What's missing?" He thought hard, but he still couldn't figure it out. "I thought about it very seriously. 200 million less? 200 million? All right, I'll transfer the money to you." "Wait, I'm not talking about money." Wenwen pondered for a moment and then suddenly understood what Qin Guang meant. On the other side of the phone, her tender face was slightly red. Fortunately, the two of them were separated by the phone, otherwise she would definitely be exposed. She forced her tone to become indifferent. "Don't joke with me, it's not interesting at all. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first." After that, she hung up. "Chief Qin, you're smiling so happily." Qian Ming, who was sitting in front of Qin Guang, turned around and teased him. Qin Guang pursed his lips. "Shut up. Shut up." The helicopter had already been driven back by full-time personnel. This time Qin Guang took the car directly back to Yanjing. It was already past 5 in the afternoon when he arrived downtown. Sun Xiaoxuan, Gao Ye and Lin Jingwei had flown back to Wujing in the morning. It was time to go back to school. In fact, school had already started today, so it was fine for Qin Guang to be late. However, as the class president, Sun Xiaoxuan still had to meet with the new counselor for this semester. Next semester would be the last semester of the senior year, and it was time for the students in the class to think about their own paths. Those who were going to take the postgraduate entrance exam should prepare early. Those who were going to work should go out and look for internships if there was a chance in their senior year. Those who were going to take makeup exams should sort out how many credits they were lacking and if there were any compulsory courses they had to pass. Although these things were supposed to be the students' business, as the serious and responsible class president, Sun Xiaoxuan had to know everyone's situation. She reminded those who needed to be reminded and talked to those who needed to be talked to. All right, the person she needed to talk to the most was Qin Guang, who had almost skipped all the final exams last semester. This guy actually had quite a lot of classes to make up for. Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage had already returned to London. The two of them had rushed back to China to guest host Qin Guang, and the results were better than expected. Unfortunately, before they could ask for credit from Qin Guang, he had accepted some urgent task and ran away. After the incident, the two of them had secretly asked their grandpa about it. Qin Guang really wasn't talking nonsense. They heard that it was really something big. The Shiraba was unknowingly turned into nothingness by Qin Guang's Tai Chi. Today only Wu Tong was still in Beijing. Qin Guang first got Lu Xiaoyang to buy him a plane ticket back to Beijing tomorrow morning. Then he asked for a car and drove to Wu Tong's branch alone to wait outside. He still wanted to ask Wu Tong about the world breaker. There were some things that he didn't want to talk about, but it didn't mean that he would just let it be. The world breaker thought that he was a pushover and had been provoking him time and time again. As the chief of the Guangdong General Administration, he had to do something. Otherwise, it would be a waste of his identity. There was no reason for him to take on the responsibility and sit in this position while being provoked by those rascals. The greater the responsibility, the greater the power. Until now, the grandpa hadn't asked him about his attitude. In Qin Guang's opinion, they might have their own considerations. Maybe they were observing him to see if he really had the self-awareness of a deputy chief and how he would respond. After all, at his level, he didn't need to consider other people's opinions unless it was a major decision that would shake the foundation. He alone had enough decision-making power. As usual, everyone in the Xinhua branch in Beijing was in a hurry. It had been more than 2 months since the arrival of the new chief. The entire branch was like a tightly wound machine. Everyone's working ability was squeezed to the extreme. At first, it was said that there would be a new chief who was young and beautiful. No, to be precise, it was a new chief who was too young and as beautiful as a star. Apart from the old chief who had to retire early and the 3 deputy chiefs who had been waiting for years, the whole branch was in a state of jubilation. Especially the men, they were all looking forward to it. Later the new chief came. She was as young as the rumors said, and she was even prettier. More importantly, she was single. Unfortunately, the excitement didn't last for more than 3 days. Because they soon discovered that the female chief was not there to gain experience, nor was she there to find a rich husband. Although they heard that she had some background, it didn't matter. She was a devil. On the first day, she used her iron fists to teach the 2 so-called elite captains in the bureau what close combat was. She fought 1 against 2 and beat them up so badly that they didn't even know which way was north. She didn't even tear her own clothes. On the second day, she led the team to participate in shooting training and scored the first perfect shooting target in the history of the Xinhua branch. On the third day, she personally led the team to the terrorists' lair. As the chief, she was the first to rush to the front and kill 3 people with her own hands. She didn't even blink. Ancient Rome took 7 days to build, but Wu Tong's reputation in the Xinhua branch only took 3 days. Next, it was time for her to lead the whole branch to create a miracle. In just 2 months, the crime rate in the entire Xinhua branch had dropped by 0.5%, reaching the lowest point in history. One had to admit that it was all thanks to the Iron Devil, Chief Wu. But what did we see today? When she walked out of the office, she was humming a song. Her colleagues said that she was putting on powder in the makeup room. She was putting on makeup. Even if it was light, it was still the end of the world. Did the sun rise from the west? Chapter 763. Wu Tong didn't know what was wrong with her today. She knew that Qin Guang wanted to talk business with her. She knew that there were more and more people who liked him, and the possibility of them being together was getting smaller and smaller. However, she couldn't help but want to make herself prettier. Perhaps I've developed a sense of crisis? In fact, it didn't make sense. Anyway, she didn't think about the future. It was good to be like this. He was happy and she was happy. There were no rumors outside. There was nothing wrong with it. As for the people in the unit who tried to introduce her to a blind date from time to time, what a joke. I'm not even 26 years old. What's the rush? There were also some people who dared to confess, send flowers, and all kinds of overt and covert concerns. Wu Tong selectively ignored them. She was cold enough to make people think that she was a celibate. She didn't believe that there was another man in the world like him, who could make her yearn for him at first sight. No other man could be like him, who came from the sky and pulled her back from the hands of the Grim Reaper when she was at her most desperate. She didn't have to repay the person who saved her life. But if the person who saved her life was the one she liked, what else was there to say? Just make do with it. What, someone said he was young. Sorry, the wind is too strong, I can't hear it clearly. Someone said, what if he doesn't want to make do with it? What does it matter? I'm a woman. A man chasing a woman is like a mountain. A woman chasing a man is like a veil. Even if he doesn't want to make do with it, I can force it. So, if someone asked Wu Tong if she would like someone else, it was impossible. Even she didn't believe it. It has been some time since she graduated from the police academy, and it's not like she hasn't seen any elite officers in Shun's special training camp. But no matter how she looked, she couldn't find anyone comparable to Qin Guang. I don't know if I'm in the eye of the beholder or if I'm blinded by lard. Forget it, it's meaningless to think too much. Maybe I have some preconceived notions, but it doesn't matter. I'm a strict police officer. I have my own judgment. I believe in my own judgment. I really can't find anyone better than him. Alright, it doesn't matter if he's not that outstanding as long as I like him. I am older than him. No, I am older by 5 or 6 years. In the eyes of the average person, I am already much older. Now that he was getting more and more famous, it was even more impossible for her to be with him in public. Otherwise, no matter if it was her or him, they would probably be condemned by everyone. But wasn't it shown in foreign movies? As long as they were happy, why should they care about those titles? Furthermore, what qualifications do I have? Come to think of it, this kid is really getting more and more outstanding. I don't know where he learned all these strange abilities. Just like, how did he find those people last night? Also, wasn't that Tubamuru language a little too strange? Rumor had it that his grades in class weren't that good. Why would he have the time to learn a foreign language that he had never even heard of? It even gave him a miraculous achievement. It was really strange. Wu Tong sat in the office, propping up her chin as she looked out the window. Her eyes were listless and her mind was filled with countless thoughts. She couldn't even sort out her own thoughts. Of course, she didn't intend to sort them out, but these similar thoughts kept popping up in the depths of her mind from time to time ever since she stayed in Yanjing. She was like an assassin, stabbing and leaving without leaving any traces. Ever since Qin Guang came to Yanjing again, these thoughts didn't fade away. Instead, they became more and more intense. After a long time, she came back to her senses. She looked at herself in the mirror with light makeup. I'm probably really hopeless. Alright, I admit that I can make myself look more spirited after dressing up a little, but it doesn't seem like I've become particularly beautiful. I still can't compare to Jin Shuiwei. Strange, why am I thinking about all this? Seriously, Tang Ying only gave me useless ideas. In fact, she was being too modest. In terms of facial features, she might not be comparable to the national beauty Jin Shuiwei. However, she was an ace police officer on the front line, and now that she was in a high position, she naturally had a temperament that was different from others. A person's charm didn't only lie in their appearance. Moreover, her appearance wasn't an absolute disadvantage. Compared to Jin Shuiwei, they both had their own advantages. At least in the eyes of the other police officers in the Xinhua branch, their chief Wu was much more beautiful than the average celebrity. Bureau of Martial Arts? Bureau of Martial Arts. Wu Tong was called twice before she came back to her senses. She put on a stern face and assumed the posture of a chief. She coughed twice and immediately switched to work mode. She said in a deep voice, "What is it? Speak." "Very good. I'm getting better at switching modes. No one should be able to tell that I was thinking about a man just now, right? That Bureau of Martial Arts, it's time to get off work." The office director, who had goosebumps all over his body because of her Iron Lady stare, shrunk his neck and said. Wu Tong blushed. How embarrassing. When Wu Tong walked out of the office, the remaining police officers on duty gathered together and whispered to each other. What do you think is going on with Bureau of Martial Arts? What could be going on? Bureau of Martial Arts is also a woman and women need to be loved. Who do you think is so lucky? Lucky? I don't think so, right? Bureau of Martial Arts is so domineering. Ordinary men can't stand it. Since the unlucky Shattered World refused to let go because of Xuelin, he might as well reciprocate. If he didn't teach them a lesson, they would really look down on him. Alright. You can contact Xuelin, right? Help me call her back. I will also report to the higher-ups. Qin Guang muttered. Speaking of the higher-ups, he was actually quite at a loss. Although his rank was quite high, he had never participated in any formal meetings since he took office. Besides, he didn't seem to have a clear department in charge of the Guangdong General Administration. His usual contact with other people was handled by Xin Qin and Wu Miaoan, which saved him a lot of trouble. According to the document that Xin Qin brought back at the beginning, he seemed to be directly responsible to the old masters, and didn't have a department in charge, right? He had to figure this out later. Also, after calling Xuelin back, what should the composition of the task force be and what to do next? It seemed that he had to think carefully. He didn't have any experience in dealing with such international affairs, and it was quite troublesome. Wu Tong looked at him grumpily, regretting that she accidentally led the conversation in this direction, and this guy immediately followed it. Well, today's work was really wasted. After thinking for a long time, when the waiter brought the steak rice over, Wu Tong knocked on the table, reminding him that it was time to eat. By the way, I may be transferred back to the 5 capitals after some time. What's wrong? Uncle Wu, have you thought it through? Wu Tong smiled, feeling a little proud. Yes, I have. What's the saying again? If it's a blessing, it's not a curse, and if it's a curse, it can't be avoided. He kept me in Yanjing, hoping that I would stay away from danger and your things. Chapter 764. Qin Guang smiled. But now he's realized that it's useless. That's just how you are. No matter where you are, you'll always bring danger to yourself. Even if he asked you to be the bureau chief of the district branch, you'd still be able to brace yourself and charge to the front. You're a good bureau chief, but you end up doing the work of a suicide squad. Isn't that right? You can't say that. As an official, if I can't even take the lead, how can I lead my brothers to charge to the front? My life is a life, and so are my brothers' lives. I'm more capable, and my ability to protect myself is stronger. Why don't I do it myself? I don't want to be the kind of official who sits in his office and directs the world with vigor. Even so, it's inevitable that people will worry. Uncle Wu is right to be concerned about your safety. Wu Tong sneered. You have the cheek to talk about me? Do you think I don't know what you did in Detroit? Besides, when I was kidnapped by Sergio, didn't you come as well? Why didn't you think about yourself? Qin Guang's face stiffened. I'm different from you. I have confidence. What confidence do you have? Aren't you just a student? Don't tell me you have 3 heads and 6 arms. Tell me, be honest. Where did you learn your skills? Wu Tong finally found an opportunity to ask this question. She had been hiding it in her heart for a long time. Of course, Qin Guang wouldn't tell her about the heavenly Holy Grail, but Wu Tong knew him very well. It was impossible to pretend that he didn't know anything. I can't explain it to you in a short time, but do you believe in the existence of God? It appeared again. The same trick he used to trick Tang Ying. Theism. Wu Tong's pupils shrank. She stared blankly at Qin Guang. She thought he was talking nonsense, but it seemed like he was serious. God, don't joke around. What era is this? Qin Guang gulped down a mouthful of water. Just take it as a joke. After dinner, Qin Guang returned to the hotel. Wu Tong's mind was also filled with thoughts about Qin Guang's theism. Although Qin Guang didn't say much about it, she was still greatly impacted by it. It was similar to how Tang Ying felt when she first heard about it. However, Qin Guang didn't tell her everything, so she could only guess on her own. As for Qin Guang, although Wu Tong was quite beautiful today and sometimes made him have evil thoughts, he had a lot of things on his mind at this time. Even though Wenwen did not make it clear, it was very likely that her battle to the death with Poison Sect and Dark Sect was coming soon. Qin Guang was starting to get anxious as well. As the saying goes, do one's best and leave the rest to the heavens. No matter what the final outcome is, do everything you can before things become the worst. At the very least, you won't have any regrets in your heart when you are truly consigned to eternal damnation. That was what Qin Guang thought and had been doing all along. During this period of time, he had thought of everything and done a lot of things. It might seem like he was hammering here and there, but in fact, everything he did had only one goal, which was to make the production of faith points catch up with the demand. Although he was always laughing and fooling around as if he didn't have a care in the world, he had never wasted a single moment or slowed down his pace. During this period of time, everything he did was for the sake of completing the muscle training in his body as soon as possible so that he could reach the standard of inner force. Since Wenwen had to pretend to be cold and indifferent in order to disassociate herself from him, it meant that the situation was more critical than he had imagined. Therefore, time waited for no man. At this moment, there were many problems in front of him. First, he had to maintain a good relationship with the old masters. He had to make use of his identity as the director of the stabilizing general headquarters to find a way to become Wenwen's right-hand man. On the other hand, when the stabilizing general headquarters grew stronger, it would be time to take action against those stubborn inner force martial artists. Without a doubt, Poison Sect and Dark Sect were the best among these stubborn people. Even if he couldn't kill them all, they could at least help to restrain Wen a little. Second, he had to find trouble with World Breaker as soon as possible. The more intense the method, the better. Qin Guang was really sick of these bugs flying around him all day long. Third, he had to find ways to increase the production of faith points. No matter what method he used, as long as it could increase, it was a good thing. However, the Great Perfection Cup World, which could increase his faith points to the maximum in a short period of time, was almost complete. The only things left were the pile driver and the racing god training ground. However, both of them were not low and were not far from the maximum. It was not worth it to continue spending time and energy on them. Therefore, he needed a new god statue. However, ever since he inexplicably lost the 7 great god statues, he had not obtained a new one. On one hand, other than the 7 great god statues, it was difficult for his other skills to be recognized by the world in a short period of time, such as acting skills. On the other hand, he did not have the time and leisure to mess around with new god statues, such as the 4,978 languages. Another option was to train his muscles in batches. Qin Guang had thought of doing something about this, but it was not easy to come across an opportunity like the World Arm Wrestling Competition. It was time-consuming and laborious to hold the competition with his own money. There were as many as 40 muscle groups, and it was not practical to train each of them once like the World Arm Wrestling Competition. In addition, there should be no one interested in the strongest futsals. No one would participate in the competition and no one would watch the live broadcast. That would be embarrassing. Therefore, Qin Guang had to go back and complete 2 deluxe special training sessions. Then he had to think about the god statue of the Heavenly Holy Grail. Well, to put it bluntly, he was asking Liu Li for help. He always had a way. Although it was good to have a relationship with Wu Tong, it was not the right time. In a house in the Middle East, Xue Lin, with a face full of stubble and skin tanned, walked out with his travel bag. At this moment he was playing the role of a traveling reporter. There were many scars on his face, and he had completely bid farewell to the image of a white-faced young man in the 5 capital. He had stayed here for 5 days. In these few days he had caused a lot of damage to the Broken World training camp near this small town. It was time to leave. Yo, Mr. Reporter, are you going somewhere far again? Xue Lin smiled. Yes, I've been out for too long. It's time to go home. He had never thought that he would experience so much killing on this trip, nor did he expect that he would be able to survive until now. Ever since he gave up his military post and left the country, he had never thought of going back alive. But in the end he gritted his teeth and endured it. Relying on the pair of hands that Qin Guang had given him, Xue Lin turned around and waved, then strode forward with his head held high. In a sense, he had avenged his brothers, but he did not relax. Instead, his heart was still heavy. Xue Lin knew that his actions had caused a lot of trouble in the country. This went against his duty as a soldier. However, he could not convince himself to stop. The arrow had already left the bow, so how could he retract it? I have no other choice. Every day that he walked on this land, Xue Lin deeply felt the pain that the broken world had brought to the people of this land. Furthermore, these people had dared to target the faraway country of China and caused the deaths of his brothers at the border. His sense of justice, his sense of responsibility, the hatred in his heart, the provocation of the broken world towards China, and the strong response from China. All of these were telling Xue Lin, since you've started this, don't stop. Either you die overseas or you make the people of the broken world lose the courage to go against China. You have to kill them until they are afraid. Unfortunately, due to some inconvenient reasons up until now, even though his father Xue Zhan really wanted to help him, he was only able to provide some assistance in terms of information in the end, and he'd never sent a single soldier to help him. Up until now, Xue Lin had been fighting alone. In fact, this was the norm for China's special forces. Unless they were representing the country to carry out public duties, even if it was a secret mission, in order to avoid international disputes, they would usually give up their official duties by leaving the country. Only if they could return alive would they be able to resume their official duties and be rewarded accordingly. For example, a few years ago, 3 police officers were tasked with the important task of solving the Mekong River massacre. They concealed their identities and hid for several months before they finally captured the drug lord. This time, what Xue Lin was doing was even more dangerous than the Mekong River Special Task Force. The enemies he had to deal with were more ruthless and had a greater impact on the international community. Hence, he could not expose his identity. He really thought that he wouldn't be able to go back and had no intention of going back. He knew that it was impossible for him to uproot the entire broken world with his strength alone. Perhaps dying in this matter would be his final destination. At least he would have no regrets. However, he never dreamed that Mr. Qin would make such an unbelievable leap in such a short period of time. Now he had become a big shot with real power. What made Xue Lin even more ecstatic was that the authority of the newly established Guangding General Bureau seemed to be far above the ordinary departments. Chief Qin wants to help me. If Chief Qin took the lead and set up a special task force or even a special task force, they would be able to deal with this matter more specifically. The shattered world was not even worth mentioning in front of the powerful Chinese military. Their support and help will no longer be limited to words, and I will no longer have to fight alone. I heard that the Guangding General Bureau has newly recruited internal force users. I wonder what will happen if I work together with these people. If I have the chance, will I be able to learn a trick or two from my colleagues? More importantly, if everything is as Chief Qin said, then I will no longer be a moth flying into the fire. I will be able to turn the impossible into the possible, and I will be able to eradicate these damned criminals. With such a light heart, Xue Lin boarded the plane back to China. He thought to himself, the day I return will be the day of your destruction. Xue Lin clenched his fists. This is my responsibility. The trouble started because of me, so I should be the one to end it. I have never regretted doing this alone. Chapter 765. In the hotel, Qin Guang was lying in the bathtub with a satisfied look on his face. He had already changed his medicine twice. It was quite troublesome to brew his own medicine, but he didn't have any helpers when he was outside, so he had to rely on himself. Just now, he had successfully completed 2 customized special training sessions in the cup. He had learned from his mistakes, and this time he had his eyes on his waist and abdominal muscles. A man must have a good waist. The cultivation process was a little painful, but the results were still quite gratifying. The deluxe version, which consumed more than 1,000,000 faith points, was much more humane than the beggar version. At least he had been given different fitness equipment, and he didn't have to drill out a pair of deceptive mechanical arms to press on his chest muscles. Nicosia Tempest felt quite wronged. Sometimes she thought that she might as well just die. Originally he was thinking about life properly, but he was inexplicably dragged to a strange place by the goddess and turned into an even stranger fitness equipment. This stinky man leaned on him and rubbed against him, but he was powerless to resist. She had finally been freed, but before she could catch her breath, she had been dragged in again and done it again. Great goddess, when will I be free? Nicosia's soul roared loudly in the pitch-black and boundless void. Unfortunately, no one paid attention to her. Forget it. Nicosia sighed and fell silent again. She did not know how many years she had been in this place. Perhaps she had lost the concept of time. Fortunately, she was a mad scientist. Even if there was nothing, just imagining the results of her previous research in her mind was actually quite interesting. For example, now she had finally deduced why her electromagnetic railgun had exploded. She had died with no regrets. Just like the elders of the Tempest family, she had died because of her overconfidence. However, at that moment, Azure did not have time to care about Nicosia. Even Qin Guang's special training had been arranged by himself. At that time, Azure had still locked herself in the leaves of the deer cry fruit tree. Now that she had woken up, it was because of another matter. The 7 statues that had mysteriously disappeared were completely gone, and there had been no new statues recently. It seemed that it had something to do with the disappearance of the 7 statues. However, since yesterday, it seemed that there had been some faint movements from the statues. It was as if a new statue was being formed, but because of the loss of the previous 7 statues, it was being held back and suppressed to the point that it couldn't come out. Qin Guang, who was about to go to bed, was dragged into an international chat room by a group of people. Most of the people in the chat room were from international airlines, as well as the technical directors of a few large Chinese airlines, as well as hundreds of aviation safety experts. At the previous press conference, Qin Guang had casually said that he would write a detailed analysis of his operation process. In the end, he had been busy playing the piano and saving Wenwen, so he had completely forgotten. However, others would not forget and had been thinking about it. After waiting for more than a day, there was no movement. Everyone couldn't help but gather together to try to crack it. Unfortunately, Qin Guang's realm was much higher than theirs. No matter how they analyzed and deliberated, the result was the same as before. They could not understand it. The more they pondered over every step of Qin Guang's operation recorded in the black box, the more they understood the gap between the two sides. Although reason kept telling everyone that there was no reason for Qin Guang to be so much better than others, the truth was clearly in front of everyone and could not be refuted. They admired Qin Guang's achievements in piloting more and more, and wanted to crack his mystery more and more. Aviation safety was related to the lives of all passengers. If they could successfully learn some of Qin Guang's piloting skills, write it into the operating procedures, and take this opportunity to bring aviation safety to a higher level, it would be a great merit. It would also be the best explanation for the frightened passengers on DL Flight 199333. After a day of continuous discussion, many experts and top pilots were at a loss. They simply found the person in charge of Air China and asked him to invite Qin Guang. At this time it was past 11 o'clock at night in Yanjing, but the sky was bright abroad. Technical experts from all over the world gathered together to crack the mystery of Qin Guang's operation, so they did not care much about time. Aviation was like this. All pilots were unwilling to let go of the slightest opportunity to increase safety, because the fault tolerance of aviation was too low and the price was too high. There was often only a fine line between a hero and a disaster. Every advancement in safety technology was built on repeated painful or frightening lessons, but the answers could be clearly obtained through technical analysis of previous incidents. But this time, if Qin Guang didn't look for him to explain, even those top-notch experts wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Hence, they couldn't be bothered about the fact that it was late at night in China and dragged Qin Guang along. At this moment, Qin Guang also felt somewhat embarrassed. After all, he would have to take a flight tomorrow and enjoy a lifetime hero's medal. Thus he felt that it was time for him to clear up the doubts of those people. So he did not hold back. He slept very well last night and now he was in a good state of mind, so he simply chatted with everyone in the chat room. Whatever people asked, he answered. Not only that, but he also drew inferences and answered in simple terms. This was simply strange and inexplicable. How was the knowledge he displayed like a beginner? This guy was simply an aviation encyclopedia. There were people who secretly thought that the smooth landing of DL Flight 199333 was all thanks to Qin Guang, but there must be a lot of coincidences in the actual operation process, and luck should be the main factor. But when they listened to Qin Guang's explanation of the right engine explosion, and the series of operations when he operated the single-engine Airbus A320 through the thunderclouds, no one thought that it was luck anymore. There was only one thought left in their minds. Oh my God. Usually Qin Guang wouldn't be so patient. But just a moment ago an idea popped up in his mind. Among the few worlds in a cup that he had mastered, wasn't it the world of pilots that was the easiest to get a statue of God without great success? Now that he was here giving a lecture to others, if he could convince these people, then he could come up with some useful information for them to incorporate into the pilot's operating procedures. Wouldn't that be equivalent to gaining the recognition of the entire civil aviation industry? No, it wasn't enough to just talk about civil aviation. He couldn't just bring out all the real knowledge in one basket. He had to think of a way to bring out some of his experience in piloting fighter jets. But he couldn't be too deliberate. He had to hide it and let them figure it out on their own. Then they would think that others didn't know and secretly picked up a treasure. This was a test of the art of speaking, and it also required strong professional knowledge. How to bring out the real knowledge mixed with the real knowledge was also a skill. Otherwise, if it was too obvious, it would instead make people suspicious. The other international friends would think that he was cheating them. If he did this well, he might be able to erect the statue of God in the pilot training ground. Although it was difficult for the sake of faith, he had to become a master of speaking. When the benefits of doing things were no longer limited to doing favors, but involved the statue of God and faith, his fighting spirit was suddenly ignited. Needless to say, he was in a good state today. He explained what needed to be explained, and when he needed to, he did not fall behind. He spoke happily, and the others were also satisfied. Everyone was happy and they quickly started taking notes. Everyone was so excited that they forgot the time. Seeing that it was almost time, Qin Guang yawned and looked at the time on the computer. He said, "That everyone, it's already 3 in the morning here. Let's stop here for today." "Hey, don't. Mr. Qin, don't. Let us finish asking. I still have a lot of questions here. We're not sleepy, we're really not sleepy. We're not sleepy at all. Even the person in charge of Air China in Beijing said energetically. Qin Guang yawned again. That's not good. I'm a little sleepy now. What if I say something wrong? Don't worry. How about this? Tomorrow at the same time I welcome everyone to my lecture hall. We'll really end it here for today. Everyone thought about it. His words made sense. Everyone treated what he said as the golden rule. What if he was muddle-headed and said something wrong? What would they do? After closing the chat room, a proud smile appeared on Qin Guang's face. He was actually not tired, but he deliberately pretended to be. Today he had only talked about the operation of passing through the thunderstorm. There was still at least 2/3 of the content left. When these people went back, they would definitely carefully analyze what he had just said. They would definitely find the hidden information in it. If he said too much at once, it would give them too much information. What if they missed it? Therefore food had to be eaten one bite at a time. This class still had to be taught one lesson at a time. First he would whet the appetite of these people, then feed them bit by bit so that his influence would rapidly advance in the two major systems of civil aviation and air force. Then the statue of God in the world of pilots would naturally be formed. Chapter 766. Before falling asleep he entered the cup world again. When he first entered, Liuli and dear Mingguo seemed to be in a heated discussion, but as soon as he entered, the two of them became silent. Qin Guang went up and asked, "Hey, what are you talking about?" Dear Mingguo said sweetly, "Why do you care?" "I want to care." "Is that so?" "I'm kidding. The sun outside is so beautiful today. Don't you want to go out and see?" "Yes, and then? Isn't it because you're too useless that Sister Liuli and I have been trapped here? Don't disturb my sleep. Do whatever you want. Also, isn't it night outside? What sun is there?" Dear Mingguo looked like she didn't want to communicate with him and was going to give him a big leaf. Although Qin Guang felt that these two gods were sneaky, he couldn't do anything about them. After seeing the latest situation of his faith points, he was immediately overjoyed. Even the impatient dear Mingguo became particularly cute in his eyes. That's right. After more than a day, his piano world's faith point production capacity was finally full. What did I see? If he remembered correctly, the upper limit of his faith point production was more than 44,600 a while ago. But now, in the blink of an eye, it became 52,013. What happened? A sudden windfall? Did I pick up a treasure? Do you know how amazing I am? Seeing his dull face, dear Mingguo's triumphant voice came. Qin Guang ran to the edge of Cloud City. "Dear Mingguo, is this your credit?" Dear Mingguo thought that he could finally hold his head high. "What else?" Qin Guang said very honestly, "But it used to increase little by little. Oh my, you increase so much all of a sudden. I'm a little flattered and can't react." Dear Mingguo stretched out a leaf and patted his head. "Actually, this is also your credit. Have you forgotten? Last time I sucked your blood, my head suddenly shot up, so of course it increased by this much." Qin Guang was overjoyed. "Is my blood really that nourishing? Another round?" Lu Mingguo was slightly moved, but she quickly retracted that thought in her heart. "No, it's better to be like this for a while. I'm afraid I'll kill you. Don't stand on ceremony with me. Come, let's do it. 1 drop of essence, 10 drops of blood. I have even more nourishing things here." Lu Mingguo spat. "CQ, you wretched fellow, you're simply dragging down the standards of our god realm." After coming out of the cup world, Qin Guang crossed his legs and laid on the bed. Although it was already past 3 in the morning, he was still too excited to fall asleep. He couldn't help but be happy and excited. Suddenly, the upper limit of his faith value had increased by so much. It was simply a windfall. Holding the calculator, the total number of faith points produced by the 7 Great Perfection Cups shot up to 360,000. Even if he was a little more extravagant, he would only be able to enjoy the luxurious version of the world in a cup once every 3 days. His gloomy life was finally going to see the light. Actually, he was being too modest. If his life was gloomy, then others would not be able to see the light of day all year round. In just these 2 days, the detailed analysis of his shocking double-handedly playing The Final Ghost Animal and Law 3 at the piano concert the day before was finally taken out. Especially when the individual tracks of the 2 songs were sorted out and compared accurately, those who were interested in this matter finally knew how amazing it was. This terrifying fellow, the intonation of these 2 songs were actually extremely high. The difference between the notes were all below 0.05. This was too unbelievable. Alright, don't ask him how he did it, it was meaningless. Because the truth was that he did it. As for how he did it, there were too many people who wanted to ask him this question. There were too many things about him that could not be explained with common sense. For example, sharpening pencils, those videos of him racing, oh right, and throwing darts. Alright, in fact when he played the Dota Tower, it was quite crazy to play the world alone. Oh right, didn't he participate in that so-called World Darts Championship? If I remember correctly, there are also videos of him throwing darts on his Weibo. Those videos also looked so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. A few days ago, the video of him participating in some arm wrestling competition overseas also became a hot topic along with this trend. Then there was one more incredible thing that happened to him. A Chinese man with thin arms and legs was actually able to pin those internationally famous strongmen on the table in an arm wrestling competition filled with monsters. Oh right, didn't he also play the role of a pilot 2 days ago and successfully crash-landed a fully loaded A320? How terrifying. In the hearts of the netizens, the accumulation of all these halos on Qin Guang was terrifying. How could he only know so many things? And as long as it was something he knew, there was nothing he couldn't do. List of brother all-rounder skills and achievements. What does he not know? This article compiled by the fans from the moment it was published, it was crazily reposted on Weibo and other major media outlets. No one knew who the author of this article was, but it was obvious that the author had been paying attention to Qin Guang for a long time. He was very familiar with Qin Guang's history and used a narrative method to describe Qin Guang's achievements in various fields in great detail. The words were beautiful and the expression was clear. It was even more beautiful than the articles written by the insiders of Tianguang Brokerage. When the influence of the article reached its peak, Tianguang Brokerage also noticed this article and simply spent money to add fuel to the fire. Overnight, this unknown author named Zhou Xian actually became a big media personality. His Weibo and WeChat fans both exceeded 100,000 within a day or two. The next morning, Qin Guang left early. It was time to return to school. He dressed neatly with a wig, a cap, a mask, and a pair of large sunglasses. He was fully armed and carefully went to the airport alone. Sir, please take that thing off your head. This isn't good. I'm afraid something might happen. Qin Guang looked at the airport ground attendant who was smiling sweetly and felt that her request was a little difficult. The ground attendant's face turned serious. I'm sorry, this is the rule. You're probably a famous person, right? But our airport security has security rules. This is the VIP passage, there won't be many people making a ruckus. The staff thought to herself, I've worked at Beijing Airport for so many years and have seen many famous people. Why are you acting cool in front of me? There had never been any special treatment in the airport security. It didn't matter who you were. Qin Guang was quite distressed. No, that's not what I meant. This isn't good. Look, this is my ID. Why don't you let me in directly? The ground attendant's face turned serious. Sorry. I don't have time to look at your ID. Your information is on the computer in front of me. But you still have to take off your hat. We don't do special treatment. Seriously, are you Wah Zai or Chow Chow? I don't even see you. You're just a small celebrity. What are you being so arrogant for? Hurry up and take off the sunglasses, mask and writing for me. If not, I'll call for help. After saying that, she felt that her attitude was a little too bad. She retracted her words and controlled her emotions. I'm sorry, I might have said it a little too seriously. But the rules and regulations are here. I really can't do anything about it. Didn't an A320 crash overseas a few days ago? If not for our hero, it would have been a big problem. Recently, the higher-ups have been demanding of me. I've been working overtime for 7 to 8 hours. My attitude is a little bad. If I've offended you, please forgive me. Qin Guang sighed. All right. I'm sorry. I've just become famous and I'm not used to it. I have to abide by the rules and regulations of the airport. A fat man standing behind Qin Guang burst out laughing. Bro, the security lady is right. The people here are all like me. They're not big or small, but they're also people of some status. They won't make a fuss like the youngsters. Come on, don't worry and take it. Look, there wasn't anyone queuing up at the VIP passage. Now that you're here, there are already 4 or 5 people queuing up. How embarrassing. Qin Guang also felt embarrassed and asked, Then I'll take it. Take. Hurry up. Seeing that everyone was being so polite, the security lady urged again. Then she saw Qin Guang's face. Her mouth opened wider and wider. He was the first to scream. Qin Guang. Mr. Qin. Oh my God. Before Qin Guang could react, the beauty suddenly turned around and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Hey! Little Zhang. Little Qin. Zhou. Quick, look who's here. Qin Guang. Oh my God." Qin Guang silently looked at this big sister who was jumping up and down. He thought to himself, didn't they say that a small celebrity was not qualified to be poor? Look at your reaction. Are you really not my old fangirl? You're Qin Guang? Oh my God. I'm Sima He from the China Music Association. Mr. Qin, can we talk? I have something very important to talk to you about. The fat man behind Qin Guang also came forward with a face full of enthusiasm. It was no wonder he couldn't keep his cool. In the past 2 days, especially after Lavin Hollander and the others publicly praised Qin Guang unreservedly on their social media accounts, the China Music Association quickly came to a consensus. They had to pull Qin Guang in as a registered member as soon as possible. It was a disgrace to the association to let the world's recognized best pianist wander among the common folk. This fat man was one of the few vice presidents. He also ran several music copyright operations and creative studios. He fought hard in the association to get the chance to represent the association to go to the 5 capitals to talk to Qin Guang. He never expected to meet someone at the airport. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to find him when he arrived in the 5 capitals. The heavens really had eyes. He was more excited than anyone else. His round face was as red as the rising sun. At this moment, Qin Guang felt that he couldn't even roll his eyes anymore. What happened to Su Tao's status? Didn't you say that you wouldn't be surprised? Bro, the air coming out of your mouth is almost spewing into my neck, okay? You bunch of liars. Half an hour later, Qin Guang sat in the shuttle bus under the reluctant gaze of many airport staff. He was really tired and sweating. His face was covered with lipstick marks. The enthusiastic air stewardesses could not stop him. He did not know who was the first to scream, Xianxia. Then they threw themselves at him and kissed him hard on the lips. But now, all the young and single air stewardesses started to follow him. In the beginning, Qin Guang felt embarrassed dodging them, but he soon realized that he couldn't avoid them at all. In the end, he could only stand on the spot and accept all of them. After the singles came up to have a taste of their mouths, it was not over. There were also those who were married, had children, and had boyfriends. Only a few people who were really reserved stood at the side and did not come up, but in the end they still came over shyly. In fact, these air stewardesses did not mean that everyone wanted to throw themselves at him. It was just that what Qin Guang did was real and worthy of praise. He was a real hero. Besides, someone took the lead. Kissing him was not considered ambiguous. It was a reward for the hero in their hearts. Humans had the mentality of following the crowd. When many people did the same thing, others would also think, others have done it. If I don't do it, will I look like I don't fit in? Besides, this was a reward for the hero. So what if they kissed him? It was not like they would lose a piece of flesh. So the result was that Qin Guang had a face full of lipstick marks. He really underestimated his position in the hearts of the people in the aviation industry. What is fanaticism? This is fanaticism. My poor airplane god statue, hurry up and come out. So many faith points have been lost. My heart hurts so much that I can't breathe. What he said wasn't wrong. People in the aviation industry were the most aware of the importance of aviation safety. Usually, pilots who successfully made a forced landing or saved other disasters would be widely praised and respected in the industry. Moreover, a layman like Qin Guang had done things that ordinary people could not do. In addition, Qin Guang's current reputation was also related to the hero image building plan under the protection of many old men. Recently, the senior management of the civil aviation industry had been attending his teacher Chen's lecture hall. They were eager to see him, and they had written about his glorious image in internal meetings and trainings. As a result, he was known by everyone in the domestic civil aviation industry. It was hard to say about the situation abroad, but at least in China, Qin Guang was probably the first real industry idol in the civil aviation industry after the founding of the People's Republic. It was not that there were no other pilots who had done something similar to him, but this was their job. They were not celebrities, and it was even more impossible for them to have a national publicity resource like Qin Guang. Qin Guang looked at the fellow flight attendants in the shuttle bus who were throwing flirtatious glances at him. He felt a chill in his heart. Don't look at me like that. I'm so nervous. Mr. Qin, do you have time now? I really have something to talk to you about. Poor Sima He, he only managed to get a sentence to introduce himself. Qin Guang turned around. I'm sorry, who are you? Actually, Qin Guang remembered Su Tao because he purposely mocked Su Tao's earlier words. Sorry, I'm a petty person. Sima He was embarrassed. He rubbed his hands. I am the vice president of the Chinese Music Association. Actually, I went to Wujing this time to meet you. What is it? Tell me. I'll think about it. Long story short, I'm busy. At this moment, Qin Guang was really busy. For some reason, he felt that a certain flight attendant was trying to rub her butt against his thigh. Beauty, do you really want to challenge the power of the strongest pile driver in history? You have to know that you're seeking your own death. Can you join the Chinese Music Association? I'm not free. Sorry, I'm not interested. I don't want to play the piano in the future. It's boring. Sima He was dumbfounded. Don't refuse so directly. If you have something to say, talk it out. Qin Guang's actions were too straightforward, so much so that Sima He couldn't recover from his shock. Poor Sima He. He wanted to represent his studio to sign a contract with Qin Guang. Later, his own publishing company would sell Qin Guang's solo piano album. In the end, he said that playing the piano was boring? Brother, as the person who can play the piano the best on the planet, are you a man to say such words? Chapter 767. Don't. Mr. Qin, with your current fame, how can you stop playing just like that? Do you know how many people in the world want to listen to your solo album? Sima He didn't care if he would disturb Qin Guang's sweet time. He decided to explain more about this man's potential in the market. He was afraid that Qin Guang wouldn't understand. Qin Guang nodded. Of course I know. I might really consider releasing an album later, but what does that have to do with joining your association? Anyway, I don't think I'm satisfied with any association. I had a special reason for agreeing to join China's escort agency. If there wasn't a special reason, I wouldn't have considered joining your association. Sima He was at a loss. Mr. Qin, let's talk this through. Whatever the escort association can give you, we can give you as well. I guarantee that we will not cause you any trouble, nor will we hold you responsible for anything. The car stopped beside the plane. The people in front were getting ready to alight. The air stewardess who had been rubbing against Qin Guang glared at Sima He. It was all this guy's fault for distracting Qin Guang. She had wasted all her effort. Qin Guang cupped his fists. Mr. Sima He. Hey. Please speak, Mr. Qin. Excuse me. I'm getting out of the car. You're blocking the door. Qin Guang took 2 steps forward and turned back. If you're really going to look for me in Wujing, I think you can go back now. Oh yes, you can't give me what the escort agency can give me. Nonsense. Where are you going to find another one like Xianxia? She's cute, good at fighting and hardworking. There's no ambiguity here. Xianxia is really hardworking. She's hardworking. Such a peerless Lolita. Where are you going to find me another one? The escort agency even gave me their president, okay? Wait, there are 2 of them. I'm sorry, but the other one is Wu Miaoan. She's at my place now. Now that I think about it, I'm really a winner in life. The quality of having a mistress in my house is really good. In the end, Sima He didn't listen to Qin Guang and went back to Yanjin. Question. Where are the civil aviation heroes most popular? Answer. On a long-distance flight. Qin Guang always had a feeling that if he was really a human-shaped self-propelled fighter jet, he could learn from other rich young masters to pick up girls and play with women. He could probably get at least one female confidant every time he took a flight. It wasn't that the stewardesses were indecent, but if you were single, it wouldn't be too much to exchange phone numbers, right? When you have time, let's have a meal together. That's not too much, right? Whether he was happy or not, he could spend some money to buy him a gift, a car or something. Then he could have a meal together. That wouldn't be too much, right? Why don't we go watch a movie after our second meal? After watching a movie in the dead of night, why not go to the Hilton Hotel to talk about life? With Qin Guang's reputation in the civil aviation industry and his financial resources, as long as he wanted to, he could probably turn into a walking fighting chicken at any time. Unfortunately, he had seen too many peerless beauties. Ordinary women really couldn't enter his eyes. Apart from that, the more famous a person was, the more they had to cherish their feathers. If he couldn't control his penis, the end result would be that he would be hung up on the wall if he was having a moment of fun and accidentally framed out. I'm not from Canada. Of course, with his current influence, if he really wanted to clear his name, it wasn't impossible. However, public opinion might be able to clear his name, but it would still leave a stain. More importantly, Qin Guang was afraid that he wouldn't be able to clear his name. Although the old man wasn't a decent person, this kind of thing had to be consensual. More importantly, it had to be someone he liked and understood. Therefore, Qin Guang accepted the stewardess's flirtatious glances. Especially the one who had started rubbing against him on the shuttle bus. He was also very daring. She had actually secretly stuffed a note under the paper cup while delivering the drinks. Mr. Qin, sighed. Qin Guang silently touched his forehead. He definitely didn't look at the almanac when he went out today. Sima, he was actually sitting next to him. Sigh. Vice President Sima, what's the point of dragging me into this? I'm just a student now. It's just a coincidence that I know how to play the piano, but I really don't have any interest in music. Don't make things difficult for me, okay? Hey, I'm tired. I need to sleep. Vice President Sima, don't talk to me anymore. After saying that, he took out Doraemon's cat-eye mask from his pocket and put it on. He slept too late last night, so it was time to catch up on some sleep. Sima, he had no choice, but he definitely wouldn't admit defeat so easily. The big words he had once said were still vivid in his mind, but now the slap on his face was so loud that it made his heart feel bitter. Mr. Qin, then I won't talk to you about joining the association for now. Are you really interested in considering publishing a solo album? Even though the sales of CDs have declined, but the market for electronic albums, especially those with lossless sound quality, is gradually rising. In the future, there will be a lot of possibilities for the copyright of your music. Qin Guang took off his eye mask and looked at him. That's a really good idea. Sima, his eyes lit up. It's not that I'm bragging, but in the field of music publishing, I know a major shareholder of Hua Dai. Thank you for your good intentions. This Qin Guang really wasn't bragging. Previously, he had a meal with a young man in the youth hall of Yanjing's mansion. He was the #1 major shareholder of Hua Dai in the country. At the very least, he could find Lu Chao. His Lu Shi culture was also a strong point in this area. How could he, a new acquaintance, pick up my fat meat? This time, Sima, he was really completely wiped out. Oh, why does my heart hurt so much? This wasn't the end, because he had forced Qin Guang to sleep. On the way, he had received quite a few supercilious looks from the air stewardesses. It's all because of you, damn fatty, that we don't even have a chance to get an autograph from Qin Guang. After arriving at Wujing without any incident, Qin Guang went straight to the airport and drove his phaeton. He had asked someone from his company to leave the phaeton at the airport. Originally, Yu Hong said that he would get someone to pick him up, but Qin Guang hadn't driven for a long time, so he wanted to drive himself. He wasn't in a hurry to go to Tianguang Agency. Instead, he went straight back to school. When he arrived at school, it was already past the registration time. But it didn't matter, he could still register in the administration building. However, there was a small interlude. He met an old acquaintance in the administration building. That's right, it was Zheng He. The two of them walked up the ramp in front of the administration building, one on the left and one on the right. Zheng He saw him from afar and was stunned for 2 to 3 seconds. Then he turned around and walked away without looking back. In just a few months, Qin Guang had turned from a loser that he could bully at will to China's #1 online celebrity. It was fine if he was an online celebrity. To him, the young master of New Radiance Group, it wasn't a big deal. However, the strength and connections that Qin Guang had displayed in public time and time again had gradually surpassed Zheng He's understanding. Although Zheng He didn't have the right to know too deep secrets with his status, he knew that he couldn't continue to provoke Qin Guang for no reason from what his father had told him. It wasn't a deep matter. Back when Qin Guang established Tianguang Agency, Lu Chao didn't want to be his enemy, so he sold Zhou away without hesitation. He even completely destroyed 8 Weekly, a media company that was rather influential in the industry. Lu Chao and his father were at the same level. Even the elders didn't want to offend him. No matter how unhappy Zheng He was, he could only pinch his nose and admit defeat. Looking at it now, the small fights he had in the past were really a joke. If he really wanted to deal with him, it couldn't be the same as before. Either he didn't make a move, or if he wanted to, he had to be ruthless. He might not even know who was looking for trouble with him even after he died. Zheng He's face was gloomy as he walked faster and faster. This guy must be feeling smug now. He didn't guess wrong. Qin Guang was really feeling smug now. This guy used to act like a tyrant in front of him because he was rich and powerful. Although he didn't take advantage of him and he was the one who taught him a lesson, he was still a little unhappy when he thought back to the past. When he saw Zheng He just now, he actually hoped that this guy would continue to jump at him. That way he would have a reason to beat him up. Unfortunately, Zheng He wasn't stupid. He knew that he couldn't afford to offend him, so he turned around and ran as fast as he could like a frightened rabbit. Qin Guang shrugged his shoulders. This was human nature. It was a joke to bully the weak and fear the strong. After completing the registration, Qin Guang had nothing to do for a while, so he returned to the dormitory. Although he couldn't live in school because he wanted to practice martial arts and could only live alone in the small district outside, since he was back he had to say hello to his brothers in the dormitory. Otherwise those scumbags would keep repeating the phrase, "Don't forget each other when you're rich," for a whole year. By the way, his two right-hand men Xen Qin and Wu Miaowan had already moved into the city. The two deputy directors had directly filled their pockets and asked for a 3-bedroom apartment in the new office building of the Guangdong General Administration. The two of them claimed that they ate, lived and worked in the unit, proving that they were hardworking, unlike a certain director who was nowhere to be seen all day long. Sitting in a position without doing anything, no one dared to admit that they were second. In response to the two's ridicule, Qin Guangju felt that they had no conscience. They didn't know how much effort their director had put in for the country. How dare they say that I'm sitting in a position without doing anything? How inhumane. By the way, these two despicable fellows didn't even pay the rent. After settling the matter, Qin Guang put on a full disguise again. There was no other way. Now that he was so popular and he was still in school, he reckoned that he would have to receive guests every day. However, he had just returned today, so he might as well save some energy. When he stayed in school for a long time, people would not always be so interested in him. Besides, when the pilot statue was erected, Qin Guang would also lay low for a period of time. At the very least, he had to train all the muscles in his body, master inner force and cure all the problems of being a martial artist. Only then would he consider the next step of getting the statue in faith. Celebrities were like this. They were popular all day long, but after a long period of silence, they would quickly be metabolized. As soon as he entered the dormitory, Xianxia pounced on him, wailing, "Help my brother." "What's wrong? Did you cook for someone? You're crying to the heavens." Qin Guang stared. Xianxia's snot and tears were smeared on him. "I can't take it anymore, my brother. I'm done for. My book, Overbearing President Please Love Me 1001 Times, is a flop. Hurry up and use your Weibo to repost it for me." Qin Guang took a step back and sent a ruthless kick flying towards this bastard. "Scram. Don't talk about your stupid book anymore. I only read the first chapter and I'm so disgusted that I can't eat for a week." Chapter 768. Xianxia pounced on him again. "Bro, I'm begging you. I've been running around naked ever since I got published. I haven't received a single cent from any recommendation. I even dressed up as a girl to seduce my editor. Guess what happened?" Qin Guang's curiosity was piqued. "What happened?" "My editor is also a girl. Seduction didn't work. I'm so angry." Qin Guang rolled his eyes. "Isn't that obvious? You're writing a female-oriented novel. Isn't it normal for your editor to be a girl? So I quickly changed back into men's clothing. Guess what happened next?" Qin Guang silently clenched his fist. "I suggest you say everything in one go." Xianxia shed 2 lines of regretful tears. "My editor said that she likes girls and hates guys. She hates guys who dress up as a girl. I'm done for. I'm done for. I must have offended her. I'm being targeted." Qin Guang was speechless at this guy who had no self-awareness. "Targeted your sister? You wrote so badly. Who could bear to read it? The subscriptions were all over the place. Even if I'm the editor, I won't promote it for you. The last time I organized an event to help you promote it, I was scolded badly on Weibo. They said that I poisoned you." Xianxia waved his hand angrily. "Impossible. I wrote it so seriously. This is definitely a modern dream of the Red Chamber. To be honest, I'm begging you. I've never begged you for anything." Qin Guang started counting with his fingers as he continued. Last semester you begged me to bring you food, begged me to play games with you, begged me to bring you to the set, begged me to... Fights too many. I can't even count them all, but you said that you didn't beg me for anything. Say, there's really no meaning in living. Blue skinny, mushroom. This guy was not pretending this time. He was really crying. All right. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Looking at his heartbroken appearance, Qin Guang's heart softened. You really have 8 lifetimes worth of dogazage *T luck to bump into me. Usually when people offer me hundreds of thousands of dollars to advertise, I don't accept it. You're the only one. Bai Fan took advantage of the situation and said, Brother Guang, you're the boss in our dormitory. You have to take care of your little brothers. Don't worry, I will remember your kindness forever, okay? I know your advertisement is expensive, Brother Guang, but when my book becomes popular, hundreds of thousands of yuan will be a piece of cake. You don't know how powerful those gods are. All right, stop. Stop right there. Qin Guang found a towel from the side and stuffed it into the guy's mouth, blocking his mouth. 10 minutes later, Almighty Superman updated his Weibo with a new message. High energy warning ahead. High energy warning. The most irresponsible novel recommendation in history has appeared. Yes, that's right. You're not mistaken. I'm Qin Guang recommending an unparalleled novel, Overbearing Sea, Please Love Me 1001 Times. Guaranteed to be ugly, melodramatic, and retarded. You'll ascend to heaven in minutes. You'll be poisoned after reading the first chapter, terminally ill after reading the second chapter. Even gods can't save you after reading the third chapter, and ghosts will worry after reading the fourth chapter. If you can get to the VIP chapter, then congratulations. You've joined the luxurious lunch of human tragedy. Remember to be a good person in your next life. Bai Fan watched Qin Guang's shocking advertisement. Brother Guang, are you a real man? Qin Guang patted his shoulder. Young man, you don't understand. The more I scare people, the more curious they will be. Believe me, you're right. Bai Nyangzi looked at Dong Xuebing suspiciously, but he had no choice but to go to his author's platform to look at the data. If she hadn't seen it, she wouldn't have known. But when she saw it, she was startled. After a while, Lady White jumped up from her chair. It's gone up. Qin Guang curled his lips. How can it not increase? The old man is a high-end internet celebrity with more than 20 million fans. My Weibo post is more powerful than your website's big push, and this grandson is still doubting my power. Qin Guang did not have time to stay in the dormitory to watch Bai Nyangzi happily. He got up and walked out with Lin Jingwei. Brother Guang, what are you going to do next? What do you mean? What are you referring to, little Lin? Lin Jingwei looked in the direction of the female dormitory, hinting at something. Qin Guang sighed. I don't know what to do. I didn't plan to see Sun Xiaoxuan when I went to America, but then I encountered that incident. I can't just turn a blind eye, and in the end, she's always like that and I don't know how to deal with her. Lin Jingwei sighed. Sigh, since ancient times heroes have always had a weakness for beauties. *CK. I'm not a hero and I don't want to be one. Of course, if you really want to say that I am, then it can only be that the times make the hero. I was forced to go all the way and I had no choice. Lin Jingwei chuckled. I understand the logic. But life is *ket up and there are many things that don't make sense. Oh right, you can't stay in the dormitory anymore, right? Lin Jingwei asked. Just as the two chatted for a while, many of the guys from the same dormitory building ran over to ask for autographs from Qin Guang. Although he couldn't remember many of their names, everyone had lived in the same dormitory building for 3 years, and most of them were familiar faces. Qin Guang couldn't refuse them, so he signed all of them without stopping. The outside of the building surrounded by the dormitory was also crowded with people. There were men and women, but most of them were girls and they all looked delicious. The dormitory manager was struggling to fight against 100 people, and she was working very hard. The price that Qin Guang paid was to give her son, nephew and other relatives 10 autographs. Looking at the sea of people downstairs, Qin Guang nodded and said, I really can't stay here, sigh. Why are you sighing? Isn't it good to be famous? Lin Jingwei teased. Qin Guang looked back at him. Do I look like someone who likes to be famous? Lin Jingwei thought for a moment. I think you actually prefer to make a fortune in silence. That's it. I'm also in the pugilistic world and I can't help myself. Qin Guang didn't have much choice. If he wanted to collect more faith points, he had to move from being a recluse behind the scenes to the front. He couldn't have every ability like the masked racing god and create a separate identity. First, it was very troublesome. There was no wall in the world that didn't have a crack. If he often walked by the river, his shoes would definitely get wet. On the other hand, only when he stood out completely could his many identities be integrated into one, and the fame brought by the many skills he mastered could form a chain effect. For example, if someone liked the piano and was also very interested in darts, they would first get to know him because of the piano, and then later find out that his darts were also so powerful they would worship him. Then they would continue to look at his Weibo and find out that his driving was also very good. Perhaps it should be about the most amazing person in the world. Then the same person would provide him with multiple shares of faith points. In addition, this person would also have friends and they would introduce Chen Guang to their friends. In this way, the number of faith points would naturally increase, just like a pyramid scheme. This was the chain effect that Chen Guang wanted to pursue. Until now, after the Xianxia car gambling competition, he hadn't participated in any official public racing competition, but his racing god training ground faith points had been slowly increasing. The other few skills that had reached the full value of the world in a cup, after the strength of the deer fruit skyrocketed, could still keep up with the pace of the deer fruit, which was also related to the chain effect of Chen Guang. Recently, the reputation that he had created on the internet had never declined. It could be said that it had reached a peak. No matter what skill it was, as long as he used it, it would immediately attract the attention of the most people. Therefore, whether he wanted to be famous or not, he could only pinch his nose and accept it. Fortunately, the downside of being famous was losing some of his freedom, but there were also many benefits. For example, Zheng He's terrified expression when he first saw him, and now that his net worth had skyrocketed. Oh right, there were also the countless female fans in his Weibo private messages that he couldn't even keep up with his eyes. Ahem, the Buddha said can't say. He called his roommates Sun Xiaoxuan and Gaoya, and went out to eat teppanyaki outside the school. Then Qin Guang said goodbye to everyone and returned to his rented apartment. In the past, when Xin Qin and Wu Miaoan were both here, he often despised the noise and the people who liked to peep at him, leaving him with no personal space and free time. But suddenly coming back here, the two girls were gone and it was really hard to bear the loneliness. Qin Guang didn't want to admit that he was actually a person who was afraid of loneliness. Whether he became Liuli's savior or became the famous person he was today, it seemed that he had never separated himself from his past self. To put it nicely, he didn't forget his original intentions. To put it bluntly, he was born with a life of hanging by a thread. Even if he became powerful and powerful, he would still be a loser with power and power. It didn't matter. He spread his hands. So be it. There's nothing bad about being a loser. It's just a room for one person. It's so empty, lonely and cold. An empty room, an empty heart. I feel so empty, like the sky has turned gray. If a beautiful loli came to massage my back, legs and shoulders, it'd be best if she wore less clothes, and it'd be best if she accidentally revealed a bit of her chest. That would be too blissful. But I really, really miss it. Lord Chrysanthemum Head, based on my understanding of you, you should be thinking about very perverted things right now. Suddenly, Xin Qin's voice came from behind Qin Guang's head, who was leaning on the sofa. Qin Guang sat up straight. How did you know? Xin Qin rolled her eyes. Lord Chrysanthemum Head, your pants are already torn, how can I not know? Am I blind? Really, you're too good at making things up. A few days ago you went to the Wenzong Pavilion to help your Wenwen suppress the demon, and today you can't hold it in anymore? You'll die of perverted behavior sooner or later. Qin Guang was about to quibble, but Xin Qin curled her lips. Shut up, I know you better than the roundworm in your stomach. Your explanation is equivalent to covering up. This loli's mouth was becoming more and more poisonous. Master Guang was already so old, but he was really speechless. Who asked him to be caught red-handed by her? Chapter 769. Didn't you and Xiao Miao move to the city? Why did you come back alone? Qin Guang silently reached his hand into his pocket and pushed that metal fellow over. Xin Qin went directly into the kitchen, took out the meat and vegetables from the bag in her hand, and put them into the fridge. If I told you that I was worried that you would starve yourself to death at home, would you believe me? Qin Guang was shocked. This girl was really a roundworm in his stomach. He could even think of this. So considerate. The venomous-tongued loli's hidden attribute was considerate? Look at how beautiful you are. Qin Guang asked in disbelief. Really? Xianxia shrugged. I even bought the vegetables for you. Do I look like I'm joking? What about Xiao Miao Miao? Why didn't she come? Yo, you're looking forward to what's in the pot when you're eating from the bowl. Qin Guang tried to explain. How can that be? Aren't you two inseparable? Xianxia shrugged. All right, Xiao Miao Miao's master came. She's staying with her master. She said she wanted to give her some training. She didn't let me learn, so I chased her out. It's that simple. So you were chased out. What else? Do you think I'm that good? Sigh. Alright, my master came to Wujing too. What for? During the military exercise, Qin Guang had once seen that indifferent abbess. She was hugging her sword with a stern face, as if everyone owed her a few $1,000,000. She looked exactly like an abbess that walked out of a television drama. He was simply terrifying. When he heard that Abbess Miju was coming, he subconsciously panicked. Xianxia shrugged. Didn't you say you wanted Xue Lin to set up a special task force? We were thinking of finding 2 experts from the bureau to handle the situation. But when our master heard it, she insisted on going. Xiao Miao Miao and I couldn't stop her. Sigh. Qin Guang heaved a sigh of relief. Well, that's good. What's good about that? It's nothing. This is our first operation since the establishment of the General Directorate of Light. It's only right to be cautious. With the 2 elders here, I feel more at ease. How could he openly admit to Xianxia that his guilty conscience was because he wanted to eat her? All right. Recently, about 50 to 60 sects have announced their intention to join the Guangding General Directorate. In addition, there are nearly 1,000 former employees of the Special Affairs Bureau from all over the country who have gradually joined our Guangding General Directorate. This is the latest personnel list from the headquarters. Take a look. There's no need for that. You just need to take a look and make sure there's no problem. As the director, how could he manage everything? The director didn't have time for such a small matter. Xianxia continued. Among the dozens of sects that have declared their allegiance to the Guangding General Headquarters, other than the Thousand Extremities sect and Thousand Flowers Valley that Xiao Miao Miao and I belong to, there are a few other purely female sections. There are photos attached to this list. The personnel screening is related to the country's plans. It can't be taken lightly. Give me the name list quickly. I want to check it carefully. After quickly looking through the name list, Qin Guang had a strong anticipation for his life as the director. It was no joke. When these purely female sects chose their disciples, did they all look at their looks? Look at these girls' noses, eyes, and cherry lips. They were all so beautiful that it made people salivate. Forget about it. Tomorrow I'll skip school and go to work. My womanland is waving at me. Xianxia looked at his fascinated expression and said with a sinister smile, Oh, right. I forgot to tell you. I don't know who started the limelight when they registered their photos, but they all used a level 10 beauty camera. Also, there's a person called Chu Hanji in the unit who photoshopped them. Qin Guang threw the name list on the table and turned back to the bedroom. Goodbye. Seriously, you're not worthy of your title as martial arts practitioners. You're even worse than those internet celebrities. Level 10 beauty cameras and photoshopped them. Can't you let people live happily in womanland? Also, little Chu, you're a sweeping monk. Why did you Photoshop people's photos? How dare you hide such important news from me? Unforgivable. Alright, let's not talk about these things for now. After reading the detailed planning report of the Shattered World Task Force, Qin Guang was quite satisfied with Xianxia and Wu Miaowan's work efficiency. As the director, he had only proposed an idea. However, when it came to the actual implementation, it was not something that could be solved with just a few words. Apart from summoning Xue Lin, who had been in contact with the Shattered World for a long time and had been living abroad, and appointing her as the team leader of the task force, he also had to appoint the sword-wielding nun and the beautiful woman as the 2 deputy team leaders. In addition, he had to add 20 former elite employees from the Special Affairs Bureau and 30 special agents from the Security Bureau to the task force. This could be said to be the most luxurious task force since the founding of the country. Could almost start a small-scale war. Using them to deal with the Shattered World was not an exaggeration. Now that everything was ready, they just had to wait for Xue Lin to arrive in the country. Hello everyone, I'm Qin Guang. Yesterday we talked about how I operated after I came down from the clouds. I was so nervous. At 10 o'clock sharp, the new Mr. Chen's lecture continued on time. Yesterday there were about a few hundred people in the international chat room. After a day when Qin Guang entered, he was shocked when he saw the number of people online. More than 14,000 people. What the heck, free training is really popular, huh? If I knew there would be so many people, I would have charged entrance fees. $10,000 per person isn't too much, right? Fine, maybe that's a bit too much. $1,000 is very reasonable for someone of my level. Forget it, I'm a hero in these people's hearts. I should pay more attention to my image. On account of the flight attendant who kept rubbing her butt against me on the plane today, I should pay more attention to my image. This lesson was once again about the moment before he was about to land. Everyone, today's class ends here. When you go back, you must study hard and complete your homework. Mr. Chen, you didn't give us homework. Oh, it seems so. By the way, in the next class I will tell you why I can be sure that the 6 deceleration wheels will explode during the landing and that we will stop at a position of 2,950 meters. This is also the part where I have to calculate the most during the entire process of the emergency landing. You can also think about it carefully. Everyone is an experienced pilot. You should know the factors that need to be considered during an emergency landing as well as I do. Mr. Chen, we're pilots, not experienced pilots. Don't worry about the details. Pilots are also drivers. If I say so, then so be it. Qin Guang's lecture came to an end in such a harmonious atmosphere. Compared to yesterday, Qin Guang mixed in more aerial combat skills today. After all, he was more and more familiar with this kind of thing. However, there was one thing that he was particularly concerned about. He always had a feeling that the pilot statue could jump out of Cloud City in the next moment, but there was no movement and it was just a little bit short. He had no idea what was going on. Before this, he had already created 7 statues of gods and had a wealth of experience in showing off. Based on his past experience, the 14,000 people who appeared in the chat room today definitely included most of the technical backbones or top pilots in the global aerospace industry. Coupled with the private goods he sold yesterday, there should be quite a number of people from the military as well. Considering the happy treatment in Yanjing civil aviation today, he should have been widely recognized by the entire industry, but why didn't the statue come out? Qin Guang didn't know that at this time in Cloud City of the Heavenly Holy Grail, Lu Li and Lu Ming were also having a headache because of this problem for 2 whole days. The 2 great existences in the endless heavenly realm who had a lifespan of 10 billion years were having a heated discussion about this matter. Lu Ming, why do you think this is? Sister Lu Li, why? Strange. Confused. Confused with a capital word. Sister Lu Li, when did you learn to be confused? I probably learned it from watching Blizzard comics some time ago. The discussion between the 2 gods was really intense. Well, you two, maybe I have a good suggestion. At this moment, Nicosia Tepester, whose soul had been trapped in the Holy Grail, spoke pitifully. Chapter 770. When Azure and Deercry heard Nixie's weak words, they both turned their heads to look at the void. Nixie, who was in the void, could not even sense her own body, but being stared at by the 2 god kings made her feel an inexplicable chill all over her body. Well, actually, I've been trying to figure out the mysteries of this space recently, and now I've finally made some progress. As expected of Frankenstein, Nixie. Even in such a terrible situation, she still did not forget the spirit of scientific research. In a sense, she might have profited from a disaster because in this void she had lost her physical body but obtained an almost eternal soul, as well as a logical thinking ability that ordinary people could not reach. In this place her photographic memory was displayed to the extreme. Her own soul seemed to have transformed into a computer that would never lose data. What do you think? Speak. Azure also became serious. As expected of a soul with the mechanical heart, it seemed to be very useful. Nixie pondered for a moment, then said, in my judgment, the reason why the 8th statue that you want hasn't appeared yet is because... Azure and Deercry's expressions immediately tensed up and they said in unison, because of what? The 2 deities couldn't be blamed for placing their hopes on Nicole. Although Lazuli could control the sky-soaring Holy Grail to a certain degree, the sky-soaring Holy Grail was basically an experimental product. Since Qin Guang was a lab rat, wasn't she the same as well? There were many things and changes in this Holy Grail that were also beyond her understanding. For example, when the 7 statues mysteriously disappeared, Azure and Deercry were also at a loss, and in the end, they even ended up in the awkward situation of their souls fusing into the Holy Grail. Nixie said, Two great goddesses. I've been sent into that mysterious realm many times and I've turned into some strange tools. I want to ask, is the reason for the existence of this magical space to train Qinguang? Although I hate Qinguang very much, I also understand that this is my fate and I can't resist it. Lu Minghua grunted, you lowly soul, you're quite smart. It's like this. Then, the statue you want, the meaning of its existence should be something symbolic when Qinguang achieves a certain realm or achievement, right? This time it was Liuli's turn to answer her. Yes. Then, is it possible that there is some kind of connection between the statues? Because the previous 7 statues disappeared, the 8th statue, which should have appeared like dominoes, failed to appear due to the lack of traction? Nixie said tentatively. Luli was a little impatient. What you said is all within my guess, it's useless. If I know more about the principles of divine power, I might be able to use modern scientific methods to calculate the formula, and maybe I can find the real reason. Nicole finally revealed her foxtail. Liuli sneered, interesting, you have quite an idea, but I don't think highly of you. In the endless God realm, there are countless people who are thousands of times more knowledgeable than you. Your so-called modern science is nothing in the endless God realm, it's just that Lu Minghua reminded, cough cough Sister Liuli, you actually don't have to say that you're ignorant and incompetent. Liuli blushed, shut up, Lu Minghua. Besides, this girl called Nixie, this emperor knows what you're thinking in your heart. You can't hide any of your thoughts from me. You'd better obediently accept your fate. Even if you know what divine power is, it's meaningless and it's impossible for you to grasp divine power. Unless what? Nixie was overjoyed. Lu Minghua teased. Unless the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail is willing to give you a chance of survival, otherwise you can stop dreaming. Not everyone has fortuitous encounters, your fate is a tool. Nixie fell into a dejected silence. Liuli and Lu Minghua shrugged, but they still didn't understand why. Since he woke up early in the morning, Qinguang had been feeling uneasy. He didn't know why either. Ever since he got the heavenly Holy Grail, he hadn't felt this way for a long time. In a sense, he should be the most special existence in this world, possessing the heavenly Holy Grail and the Emperor of the Azure as his backer. He really shouldn't have this inexplicable sense of crisis. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't find the source of this sense of crisis. For the whole day, he first received the second batch of medicinal herbs from Wenwen at home, which almost filled the entire living room. He had no choice but to put all the medicinal herbs in Zhou Xian's house, which had always been empty anyway. After that, he went to the new office of the Guangding General Headquarters and saw a few female martial artists who were swindling online. Alright, there was no reason for all the girls who practiced martial arts to be so beautiful. Most of them were tall and sturdy, or they were old aunties like sword-wielding nuns. His plan of a female country was stillborn. After that, he finally met Xuelin, who had rushed to the 5 capitals. He hadn't seen his only disciple for a long time, and he was able to come back alive, which made Qinguang feel a lot of emotions. His skin had turned darker and he wasn't as handsome as before. There were more scars on his face and his physique had also become thinner. However, his strength had increased instead. Although he still couldn't compare to Qinguang, he was still more powerful than ordinary people. Xuelin's progress showed a principle. When a person's spirit was strong to a certain extent, the body could break through the innate shackles. Greetings, instructor. Xuelin stood straight in Qinguang's office, and there was a trembling tone in his voice, which showed how excited he was. Qinguang looked at the light green thread of faith value surging out of his head and was satisfied. This was his only fanatic. He was his only child, so he had to cherish him. Qinguang moved forward in a friendly manner and asked, "You've had a hard time recently, haven't you?" Xuelin was stunned at first. He subconsciously felt that Qinguang had become a little different after not seeing him for a period of time. How should he put it? In the past, although he was strong in front of a special forces elite like Xuelin, he had always been as immature as a student. Now Mr. Chen's face didn't change at all, and he even looked a little funny because of his bald head, but strangely he seemed more imposing. Xuelin was puzzled, but he bowed his head even more respectfully. "Fortunately, I didn't let you down, instructor. It's because of me that Shattered World caused trouble for you, instructor. I'm sorry." Qinguang waved his hand. "It's no big deal. It's just a small problem. This time I asked you to set up a task force to solve it once and for all. You can rest assured." with the help of the sect masters of the Thousand Despair sect and Thousand Flower Valley, and I'll give you the latest weapons. You can crush them in minutes, okay? Shui Lin became even more excited. Thank you, Mr. Qin. After sending Shui Lin off, the sword-wielding nun and the beautiful woman left with him. Since they were going to take action, they had to be swift and decisive. That afternoon, the task force of Shattered World would set off from the Five Capital and head to the neighboring Mount Baylor. The base of Shattered World was in the neighboring Mount Baylor. Of course, this was what Qin Guang had heard from the native Ramru language. After sending off this group of people, Qin Guang rushed to the Tianguang agency and met with Yang Shi, who had followed him here. Poor Yang Shi was actually quite embarrassed. He didn't know why he had come all the way to the Five Capital. With Qin Guang's acting skills, he didn't need any pointers. The evil Big Beard Deng was really out of his mind. Even Qin Guang's glorious record of shooting 12 commercials in one day couldn't convince him. This old man still didn't believe it and insisted that the commercials couldn't represent an actor's true ability. He insisted that Yang Shi come over to give Qin Guang intensive training. Qin Guang patted Yang Shi's shoulder, who looked aggrieved. Let him go to Zhizhai on his own. Speaking of which, Qin Guang's recent commercials had started to be released on all the major media outlets in the country. Inexplicably, it had increased his reputation. Although this reputation seemed to be of no use for now, it would become his trump card in the future. The greater the reputation, the easier it would be to reach the maximum value after the new idol was erected. After a busy day, Qin Guang returned to school in the evening. It couldn't be helped. The new counselor didn't know him as well as Zhu Jingxi did. It was actually quite difficult for the new counselor to deal with this international talent, who had missed several compulsory courses at the end of last year. The grades of the compulsory courses were related to graduation, so it was better to call him over for a discussion. Where's Qin Guang? The young counselor sat in the office chair. He was even more nervous than Qin Guang when he spoke. Qin Guang sat on the stool next to him and replied with a smile, "Hey Mr. Ding, don't be nervous." Xiao Ding scratched his head awkwardly. "I can't not be nervous. To tell you the truth, I also play Dota. I'm your fan." "That's a good relationship." "I didn't expect Mr. Ding to be a kindred spirit." "Comrade," Xiao Ding chuckled. "I've played for many years. I used to play on Haofeng. Back then my level was okay. But now that I'm old, I only have about 2,000 points on the ladder. I play when I'm free. I can't compare to you." Qin Guang agreed. "Those who really like Dota are good people. It's fine as long as you're happy playing the game. You don't have to play to perfection. It's just a game, that's how it is." "Oh right, Qin Guang, what are your plans for this semester? Although you're a celebrity now, the school has rules and regulations. There are many people watching you. I'm afraid you'll have to face them head-on. Of course, if you want to play some tricks, I can help you talk to the school. The school leaders might agree, but I'm worried that if it gets out, it will have a negative impact on your reputation." Because of the game, Mr. Ding and Qin Guang chatted for a while. They gradually became less nervous and started talking about business. Qin Guang waved his hand nonchalantly. "There's no need to play some dirty tricks. I can pass." What a joke. The old man was famous for pressing the line. He was the king of rushing for exams. He was the king of 60 points. Although these 3 years of university were quite entertaining, he didn't fail any subjects. Well, except for the CET4 exam. "Since you're confident, I won't say anything more. But I still think that fame is fleeting. No matter how famous a celebrity was in the past, aren't there some who are living a hard life now? So, no matter if you're studying or becoming a celebrity, you have to learn as long as you live. You have to be strong to forge iron. The level of your cultural studies will have a long-term impact on your life. I'm relieved that you can think this way. You've been in university for 3 years. If you were in your first year, I would suggest that you take a leave of absence. But now that you're only in your last year, you have to grit your teeth and get through it." Qin Guang nodded. "Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Ding. I'll be careful." It was about 9 o'clock at night when he returned to the neighborhood outside the university. Xianxia was practicing yoga in the living room on the TV. To be honest, the difference between the Indian yoga and the external martial arts she learned in the Thousand Extremities sect was huge. However, she did not know who had boasted to her that practicing yoga could enhance her breasts, but she actually believed it. Qin Guang felt tired when he saw a beautiful lowly in tight clothes moving around in the living room gracefully. Qin Guang squatted in front of her and stared straight ahead. Well, Xianxia, let's discuss something. Xianxia was lying face down on the yoga mat. She bent her legs from the back and formed a C shape with her legs resting on both sides of her head. It was her flexibility that allowed her to perform such difficult movements when she had just started learning yoga. In a sense, her current posture was somewhat indescribable. Especially this little girl. She really did not know how to behave. She was wearing such tight clothes that it was indecent to look at her. This evil camel toe actually used such a shameful posture to face me. You shameless lowly, I must use my scrutinizing eyes to ruthlessly criticize you. Xianxia raised her head slightly to look at Qin Guang. Due to her awkward posture, she could not lift her head high enough. She could only see Qin Guang's crotch when she looked straight ahead. Shut up. You perverted old man, I know what you're thinking. Qin Guang swallowed his saliva silently. I heard that it's better not to wear tight clothes when practicing yoga. It won't be effective. Xianxia believed him. Should I wear loose clothes? Qin Guang shook his head. No, real yoga allows the practitioner's skin to be in direct contact with the Reiki of heaven and earth. During the exercise, the practitioner adjusts his breathing and state of mind. Every pore on the body opens and there is no barrier to communicate with nature. Only this kind of yoga is real yoga. Xianxia looked at this guy's increasingly bulging crotch. Although I'm not well educated, you can't lie to me like this. Bah. And every pore is open. You're so wretched. Don't you want me to not wear it? Well, fine. Pretend I didn't say anything. Unexpectedly, Xianxia suddenly said loudly, sure. As she said that, she naughtily opened and closed her legs. Qin Guang covered his nose. He could not take it anymore. His nose was about to bleed. I can't believe that my knowledgeable master, who is also half a man living with women, was actually teased by a little girl to the point of excessive nutrition. This is not scientific. If she had not admitted that she was an adult, Qin Guang really wanted to turn himself into Wu Tong. Really? Do you want me to leave first? Or do you want to take it off directly? Qin Guang thought silently. It's not that I'm not determined, but the enemy's temptation is too strong. I can, but the first chapter of the painting volume. Goodbye. Chapter 771. Qin Guang turned around and went back to his bedroom. Damn it. I eat my food, live my life, and spend my money. What's wrong with looking at a camel toe? It's not like I'll lose anything. So stingy. You actually have the face to mention the painting scroll to me? If it was someone else, I'd hang them up and beat them for 3 days for daring to covet the old man's divine power. I'd also have to buy 17 or 18 red candles and drip the hot wax on their little but as if it was free. I'd also have to find hemp rope. Take it. Take it from me. Damn it, I must have been controlled by a devil recently. I can't believe my thoughts diverged in such a perverted direction. I'm a righteous person. It's all Xianxia's fault for leading me into the ditch. That's right, it's like this. I wanted to teach you how to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. You actually think of me as such a shameless person. Am I such a despicable person? The painting scroll is the treasure of the Wenwen family. Wenwen trusted me, so she gave it to me. You want to get the painting scroll with just a camel toe? Dream on. Am I that easily swayed? Are you kidding me? Even I'm scared of myself when my willpower is strong enough. He turned around and the pile driver hit the leg of the table. Bang. The table shook violently and the leg almost broke. Qin Guang silently sat back on the chair. Let me chant the great compassion mantra to calm myself first. Although my body betrayed me, my soul is still pure. He returned to the computer. Today was the last lecture of Mr. Chen's lecture. The number of viewers in the chat room had reached a terrifying 40,000 people. I heard that to ensure stability, the top 10 airlines in the world even invested tens of millions of dollars to upgrade this casual chat room. They built a separate server. It could be seen how important Qin Guang's lecture was. Before the lecture officially started, Qin Guang was nervous for a few seconds. Whether he could complete the pilot statue depended on today. He took a deep breath and got to work. 3 hours later, Qin Guang tapped the table lightly and said in an impassioned tone, "Everyone, I'll stop talking about the technical essentials I used during the forced landing. If you have any other questions in the future, you can talk to me in private. I have always been a helpful person. Everyone should know that I am very busy, but I will try my best to satisfy you when the time comes. This kind of public class, I'll be the good guy today and give it to you for free. But if you want more, you can find me in private. Please prepare the money. Thank you, Mr. Chen. You have been a great help. On behalf of the International Civil Aviation Association, we thank you for your contributions. After a unanimous discussion, we believe that you should be awarded a second medal. You are not only the hero of the aerospace industry, but you have also led the technological progress of the entire aerospace industry. Your contributions will benefit all of mankind. Qin Guang listened to the praises in the chat room. He did not know which company's boss was praising him. To be honest, as long as I have a hero medal that allows me to fly for free and always fly first class, that's enough. No matter how many other medals you give, it's useless. In the chat room, only a small number of people had the right to speak, but almost everyone could type. It was lively now. In the language chat box in the chat room, there were all kinds of compliments and comments in the live broadcast. If it was someone else looking at the various languages from all over the world, they would definitely be speechless. Unfortunately, the person sitting here was the best language master in history. Qin Guang could understand everything just by looking at it. Alright, everyone stop praising me. Hurry up and help me build up the statue, okay? Even through the screen, Qin Guang could sense how attractive his piloting skills over the past 3 days were to the people in the chat room through those words. If it was as he expected, the professional technicians in the military should have sorted out a lot of private goods that could be used. But why hasn't there been any movement yet? What is the problem? Lying on the bed, he tilted his head and looked out of the window. His brain was also a mess. He thought about all the things that had happened recently, but he couldn't figure out what the problem was. There was one more thing that bothered him. Ever since this morning, the feeling of unease in his heart hadn't stopped. He thought it was because he had been away for too long and was not used to suddenly returning to school. During the day, he deliberately shifted his attention to other aspects and selectively ignored this strange feeling. But in the dead of night, when he was lying on his bed alone, this feeling emerged from the depths of his mind and became more and more intense. Qin Guang was sure that there were many reasons for this situation. It was very complicated, but there was no doubt that something must have happened and it would not be a good thing. Maybe it had something to do with the statue not being erected. Or perhaps it had something to do with the strange situation between him and Wenwen. If not for the Holy Grail's interference, a righteous person like him, Wenwen would not have been able to turn him into a human-shaped aphrodisiac. She would not have been able to control herself whenever he got close to her. Our family's big sister cheat is not the same as what is written in web novels. Other people's grandpas were omniscient and omniscient. Once the male lead with the protagonist's halo encountered any problems, the accompanying grandpa could come up with 10,000 solutions in a minute. The male lead only needed to stretch out his little finger and randomly choose one of the 10,000 solutions that looked more pleasing to the eye to make a decision, and that would be it. Or else, it would give the male lead a complete set of easy and pleasant leveling up routes. As long as he happily follows the fixed route and walks step by step, he can become immortal in minutes, unify the world, become a winner in life and walk to the top. But why does it have to be me? If something happens, our portable grandma will either not know anything or pretend to be dead and not online. Just thinking about it makes my head explode. At this moment there was another knock on the bedroom door. It was Xianxia. Swollen chrysanthemum? Are you there? Are you asleep? Qin Guang was not in a good mood at the moment. He slapped his forehead. Don't mess around. Let's talk tomorrow. I'm a little tired now. Unexpectedly, Xianxia did not listen to him and knocked on the door again. It's not like that. I don't know what's going on either. I was lying on the bed just now and my heart suddenly felt very fast. I'm afraid that my master... Qin Guang sat up straight on the bed and opened the bedroom door in his pajamas. What's going on? Didn't they leave in the afternoon? Yes. Looking at the time, they should have just gotten off the plane. I also called my master just now. She said that she has just settled down and plans to secretly go to Mount Baral tomorrow morning. Then everything should be normal. What are you afraid of? Xianxia was still frowning. I don't know, but I'm afraid. I'm not joking really. I'm really scared. Looking at how confident she was, Qin Guang's brows knitted together. He felt that he must have been possessed today and something seemed to be amiss. Alright, I forgot to tell you. Xiao Miao Miao and her master went together. Qin Guang raised his eyebrows. What about her? Xiao Miao Miao also said that she doesn't feel at ease. Just now she was still chatting with me on WeChat. She wanted to persuade Xuelin and Master to change their schedule. As she said that, Xianxia did not care about being reserved. She grabbed Qin Guang's hand and pressed it against her chest. It's true. My heart is really beating very fast. Even with the full bosom between them, Qin Guang's palm still felt as if it was being patted repeatedly. Her heartbeat was really frightening. Sensing the intense vibrations in his palm, Qin Guang's heart seemed to be attracted as well, beating at the same frequency as Su Tao's. A strong sense of crisis fell from the sky and completely enveloped him in an instant. The realm of punishment is about to descend. Savior, please get ready. At this moment, a familiar electronic voice suddenly rang in his heart. The voice was very calm and emotionless, but in that instant, it made his hair stand on end. He finally knew what he had overlooked. Yes, it was the realm of punishment. On the plane, he had used the power of the realm of life when he was in danger. Now it was time to pay the price. The last time, in order to save his mother, he had used the power of destiny just to obtain a perfectly compatible kidney transplant. In the end, he had dragged Wu Tong into the punishment realm. If he had not been stubborn enough to charge forward fearlessly and rescue her from the hands of Shijio, she would have died a long time ago. At that time, Qin Guang had no experience in fighting against international terrorists. He had almost no ability to protect himself when he was in danger. If he had not had a flash of inspiration to put the grenade thrown by the other party into the Holy Grail and relied on Azure's help to release the explosive power of the grenade, he would not have had a chance of winning. Although it had been a long time, the feeling of walking on the edge of death was still fresh in his mind. Azure once said that using the power of fate would definitely cause a backlash, and the backlash would be stronger each time. The second backlash would be at least 10 times stronger than the first. The first time he used the realm of punishment, he had caused such a huge commotion. Needless to say, the intensity of the second backlash would be far beyond his imagination. He had been too busy for the past 2 days, so he did not expect the realm of punishment to come so quickly. That was why he had subconsciously neglected it. Now, whether he wanted to or not, he had to face reality. After a whole day of preparation, the realm of punishment appeared in front of him in an extremely sudden and natural manner. This was the reason why he had been feeling uneasy the whole day. As for why Xianxia and Wu Miaoan felt the same sense of crisis, Qin Guang soon found out the reason. His hand was still on Xianxia's chest and did not move away. However, as the heavenly Holy Grail's electronic voice rang out, the invisible yet seemingly substantial power of the Holy Grail surged out from the heavenly Holy Grail that was placed on the bedside table. Like a wave, it spread out and enveloped the entire room. As the master of the Holy Grail, Qin Guang could sense that the power of the Holy Grail did not stop. Instead, it continued to spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. Although the power of the Holy Grail was becoming thinner and thinner as the space it enveloped continued to expand, this mysterious power was like a noodle that could never be pulled apart. No matter how thin or thin it was, it still existed. Until the entire earth was enveloped by the Holy Grail. Until the entire universe, or perhaps the universe in a narrow sense, was also enveloped by the power of the Holy Grail. Qin Guang's consciousness merged with the Holy Grail. In an instant, his consciousness seemed to have been brought to an extremely faraway place by the power of the Holy Grail, allowing him to roam to his heart's content. Although he found it extremely inconceivable and difficult to understand, there was no doubt that the entire universe was enveloped by the power of the Holy Grail. At this moment, everything in this universe was enveloped by the power of the Holy Grail. It was as if a person with 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical souls had been forcefully stuffed in, becoming 3 spiritual souls and 8 physical souls. Everything in the universe had an additional attribute. In the air, beyond Earth, in the vacuum, in the distant Centaurus galaxy, beyond the range of vision of 13.8 billion light-years, the endless void 46 billion light-years away, and even further away, everything was completely enveloped by the power of the heavenly Holy Grail. Ever since he obtained the heavenly Holy Grail, this was the first time Qin Guang truly felt how terrifying and powerful the Holy Grail was. The last time he entered the punishment realm, he had a feeling that the real world had also become a realm within a cup for a period of time. However, at that time, the power of the Holy Grail was too thin and could not bear the weight of his consciousness. That was why he had hidden this conjecture in the depths of his heart and could not verify it. It was only today when he suddenly tried and successfully merged his consciousness into the Holy Grail. Only then did he understand that when the punishment realm was activated, what changed was not what he saw in front of him, nor was it that he was pulled into the realm within a cup created by the Holy Grail. Instead, it was that the entire universe had become a realm within a cup. Even after his consciousness merged into the power of the Holy Grail, he could not truly see. He could only form a perception and judgment in his heart to know whether something in a certain place existed or didn't exist. He did not know exactly how big the universe was. He was also not sure if the universe had a boundary. He was also unable to see what existed beyond the boundary. However, from the feedback from the heavenly Holy Grail, he knew that the entire universe had become a realm within a cup. This was because time had come to a standstill at this moment. In a sense, in the vast universe, all the existences of matter or antimatter were connected to each other. To put it simply, it could be said to be the gravitational force. Assuming that the universe had a boundary, a speck of dust on the leftmost edge of the universe and a speck of dust on the rightmost edge that was billions of light years away from it would still have a gravitational force. It was just that the magnitude of this force was so small that it could not be expressed using mathematics. However, no one could deny its objective existence. In that case, if one wanted to completely stop time in a certain small area, but the entire universe was eternally moving, the so-called butterfly effect could be magnified to the entire universe. Even if it was only a ping-pong ball that had stopped completely on Earth, the infinitely magnified butterfly effect would cause the eternally moving universe to be completely torn apart. Therefore, there was only one way to achieve a complete standstill in time or to slow down time. That was to completely freeze or slow down the entire universe. The last time when Qin Guang had appeared in court to judge Wang Ren and Su Lijing, the heavenly Holy Grail had risen from the spirit sky realm to the one-line sky realm. At that time, a similar situation had occurred. However, at that time, Qin Guang had not been able to integrate his consciousness into the power of the Holy Grail, so he could not sense so much. At that time, time had not been completely stopped. It was as if someone had pressed the slow button, and the flow of time had become extremely slow. However, this time it was for real. For the second realm of punishment, the heavenly Holy Grail had frozen the entire universe, causing trouble. Must the second realm of punishment cause such a huge ruckus? Also, I don't even have the ability to get you to give me some small favors. If I want to get muscle training, I have to save up my own faith. Every time the realm in the cup was activated, I had to wait for Lazuli to recover her divine power and for the heavenly Holy Grail to recover its power. Why is it that when it's time to punish me you have to make such a huge ruckus? You're my family's golden finger. Are you trying to say that you've been saving up your power all your life to prepare a big move? Not to help me but to mess with me? King retard. Boss, can I return the goods? Please give me a more conventional cheat, I can't take it anymore. Focusing on tricking me for 20 years. My heart hurts so much that I can't breathe. Forget it, I'll pinch it to my heart's content before I die. Anyway, time has stopped. Little Xianxia doesn't know anything. The elasticity of this steamed bun is pretty good. My life has been worth it. Chapter 772. However, when he pinched Xianxia, he noticed that the power of the Holy Grail lingering around her body was much denser than in the doorframe at the same distance from him. Perhaps the reason why Xianxia and Wu Miaoan both felt an inexplicable sense of danger at the same time was because the two Lolas had stayed with him for too long, and they had been contaminated with a lot of the Holy Grail's power. Therefore, when their closest kin, who was also their master, was dragged into the punishment realm, they both felt a strong sense of danger at the same time. Especially Wu Miaoan, who was also dragged into it. As for the others, they didn't feel anything at all, perhaps because they didn't have much contact with Qin Guang. Perhaps Xue Lin should be able to sense this, but he had been in a precarious situation for a long time recently. This time he was going out to carry out an important mission, so it was not strange for him to feel a sense of urgency and depression. He thought that he was being vigilant, but he didn't know that it was precisely because of his vigilance as a soldier that the entire task force was in danger. However, he couldn't be blamed for this, because this matter was far beyond his understanding and imagination. Although Xue Lin was Qin Guang's only disciple, he was first and foremost a mortal. At most, he was just a mortal who was slightly more powerful than ordinary people. The punishment realm will descend in 1 minute. Countdown begins. 50, 59, 50. Since when was there such a precise countdown before entering the Holy Grail realm? This was unprecedented and Qin Guang panicked. How cruel must the punishment realm be for the Holy Grail to be so human-like as to give him a countdown? He hurriedly rushed to the bedside table, picked up the cup and immersed his consciousness into the Holy Grail. The situation was urgent and he had to ask Azure for 2 silk sachets before he officially started work, just in case. When he entered Cloud City, Azure had indeed come out from the leaves of the deer cry fruit. She was sitting under the deer cry fruit with a frown, and no one knew what she was thinking. Qin Guang went up to her. "Lord Azure." Azure waved her hand. "All right, you don't need to say anything else. When you call me Lord, the next sentence you usually say is help me. All right, you really know me. This time I'm really going to explode on the spot. On account of the fact that we have been together for so long, on account of the fact that I am your sweet little cotton-padded jacket, on account of the fact that in order to become stronger and one day free you from the Holy Grail, I have always been racking my brains and never giving up. Please help me." Liuli turned her head and silently looked at this ungrateful wretch. She had long seen through this fellow's nature. When he needed you, his attitude was very kind, as if he wanted to hold her in his hands like a treasure. But when he didn't need you, his tail would rise to the sky at any moment. This kind of person, to put it nicely, was heartless, and at worst he was an ingrate. All right, Liuli knew that this was Qin Guang's personality. Even if he was grateful in his heart, he wouldn't let you please him verbally. If I didn't know what you were thinking in your heart, I would have been angered to death 17 or 18 times. Sai, I told you before that this power of destiny cannot be used easily. Once you use it, you have to be mentally prepared to pay the price. You tried it once last time, and I also told you that the punishment you will face the second time will be 10 times stronger. Why are you so good at courting death? Why didn't you listen? You still have to court death yourself, Sai. Liuli sighed, looking as if she was mourning his misfortune and angry at his lack of ambition. Qin Guang spread his hands. "You're blaming me? I was so unlucky to encounter that kind of thing on the plane. I couldn't do anything about it. All right, since things have already come to this, let's do something practical." Actually, Qin Guang felt sorry for himself. Don't just focus on lecturing me. Back then, wasn't it because you pretended to be dead and didn't move? I had no choice but to use the power of destiny. Liuli chuckled. All right, I'll give you the 4-word mantra. When you are in danger, just recite these 4-word mantra and you will definitely be able to turn misfortune into fortune. Qin Guang was overjoyed. Really? Hurry up and speak. Liuli took a deep breath and chuckled. These 4 words are, pray for your own good fortune. *CK. Lu Minghua, who had been eavesdropping on the conversation between the two of them, couldn't help but laugh out loud. Qin Guang, Sister Liuli really didn't lie to you. In the ordinary world within the cup we can still protect you a little, but in this world of punishment Sister Liuli and I really don't have any methods. Qin Guang shouted, such a despairing thing, don't say it so lightly. There are only 10 seconds left, quickly tell me what this unlucky world of punishment is like. Liuli spread out her hands again. Next I'm going to give you the 3-word mantra. What? I don't know. Oh my god. I can't do it anymore, my heart feels so uncomfortable. If it wasn't for his big heart, Qin Guang felt that sooner or later he would be angered to death by Liuli. Unfortunately, he didn't have any chance to complain about the immorality of Liuli and Lu Minghua. The countdown in the depths of his mind finally reached the final 3, 2, 1, and then the electronic voice sounded again. The fusion of the real world is complete. The world of punishment is activated. It's coming, it's coming. Qin Guang's consciousness was uncontrollably pulled out of the world within the cup, and in a flash he returned to the real world. Xianxia had already woken up and time began to flow again. She was a little confused and didn't know what happened. As if she was just stunned for a moment, Qin Guang ran to the bedside table. What's wrong? Did I lose my memory? Xianxia scratched her head and said. Qin Guang shook his head and didn't have the mood to talk. Instead he immersed his mind in the Holy Grail in his hands. Where's the activation? It's moving. What should I do now? Where's the mission? Also, what the hell is the fusion of the real world? Why don't I know about the real world? It sounds very high-end, but I don't have any impression of it. Is there anything special about the fusion? What did the real world fuse with? What's the next step? What should I do now? Don't try to scare me, okay? Qin Guang looked around in a daze. What he saw was still the same as before, but in his perception he clearly felt that everything in the world that he saw was more mysterious and difficult to understand than before. He walked to the window, opened the curtains and looked at the bright moon hanging in the sky. The bright moonlight sprinkled on the ground like snow. The clouds, the moon above the clouds, the light on the ground, everything looked normal to the naked eye, but in his heart he felt that it had changed, the whole world had changed. From the looks of it, the so-called fusion of the real world probably referred to the whole world becoming the world in the cup. Although he didn't know what changes had happened in the Holy Grail, otherwise it wouldn't have reminded him. The heavenly Holy Grail was emotionless and had no consciousness, but it definitely wouldn't say any nonsense just to tease him. Don't worry about those small things. You didn't lose your memory, come and take a look. Qin Guang called Xin Qin, who was clueless, to the window. Xin Qin looked out. What? Didn't you notice anything different? Xin Qin shook her head. Nothing different, right? Is there a problem? Xin Qin couldn't see anything. All right then. Shrugging his shoulders, Qin Guang responded. All right, why am I in your room? Xin Qin suddenly realized something and looked at him with a guarded expression. You've forgotten about it? Xin Qin was completely confused. What did you forget? Qin Guang touched his forehead. Forget it, I shouldn't have counted on you. At this moment, the heavenly Holy Grail finally sent another message. The World of Punishment mission announced. Qin Guang was relieved. It's here, it's here. It's finally here. If there was a mission, there would be a goal. Otherwise, it would be too unsettling to stay in the punishment realm that was fused with the real world, which was also in the real world, blindly. Main mission, stay alive. Faster thief. For a moment, Qin Guang couldn't hold it back and cursed. Your mission description is so simple and straightforward. I really have to thank your whole family. Xin Qin looked at him blankly. What's the matter? Why are you scolding me for no reason? Don't be angry. Even if you want to do something with me, I won't blame you for drugging me and making me unconscious. But I was just asking you actually scolded me. Qin Guang looked back at her and laughed. You've forgotten. I don't blame you, but now is really not the time to joke with you. Someone is going to die, the electronic voice reminded again. If the main mission fails, the Redeemer will die. Qin Guang silently covered his heart. In my humble opinion, you really don't need to remind me again. Of course, I will try my best to stay alive. Main mission 2. Destroy the headquarters of the extremist organization shattered within 48 hours. If the main mission 2 fails, the Redeemer will still die. F***CK. Since staying alive is the main mission, shouldn't the other missions be side missions? Why is it the second main mission? And if I fail, I will still die. Are you crazy? Alright, forget it. Anyway, it's the world of punishment with 10 times the difficulty. I can accept it if it's more brutal. I had sent out so many people. Xin Qin and Wu Miaowan's masters were leading the team, and Xue Lin, who had been suppressing Shattered the World for the past few days, was also leading the team of 50 elites. I had even shamelessly borrowed some of the savage new equipment that I had seen during the individual military exercise from the old men and the bald-headed uncle. The strength of the task force was absolutely invincible. If there's no other way, I'll go to the Wujing military region and find a fighter jet to fly directly to Mount Baylor. I'll personally oversee it. A mere world of destruction. Although they claimed to be a super strong assassin organization, they were forced to flee like rats by a little brother of mine. They had no choice but to place their hopes on causing trouble within the country. Unfortunately for them, they ran into me, the one who planned everything and won every battle. This means that although their names are cool, they're actually not that scary. Now we have 2 inner force experts, 50 elite warriors and top-notch combat weapons developed by the entire nation of China. Not to mention that our technological level is much higher than yours. It's the same as 3 versus 1 and we're 60 people ahead of you. I'll directly flatten the floor. What's this called again? That's right, Flying Dragon Riding Face. A 3-attack Flying Dragon with 200 people against a mere 100 people of Shattered. Face A1. What's the use of hiding in Mount Baylor? Do you think your hiding place is undetectable? The invincible divine detective Chen Luoka has long heard your hiding place clearly. What's this called again? Right, this is a force field. What's the use of isolation? Therefore, destroying the world of destruction within 48 hours was not a problem at all. It's a sure win, easy casual win. Wait a minute, this flag seems very familiar. Suddenly, the electronic voice from the Holy Grail sounded again. Main Mission 3. Rescue 55 hostages within 48 hours. Current number of rescued, 0. When the success rate of rescuing hostages is less than 60%, the mission will fail. If the mission fails, the rescuer will die. Qin Guang leaned against the wall and looked at the bright moon outside the window. Facing this situation, what can I say? Seriously, there are some things that I can't randomly raise flags for myself. I swear, I'll remove the words flying dragon riding face from my Xinhua dictionary. I really don't want to talk about poison anymore. This isn't poison, this is an illness, an incurable illness. Mission countdown. Remaining time, 27 hours 53 minutes 19 seconds. Qin Guang cursed again, omitting 3,000 words below. Where's the promised 48 hours? Liuli silently said, counting from 8 a.m. yesterday, it's already been a little over 20 hours. Playing with me? You're completely playing with me. Qin Guang didn't even have the strength to lean against the wall. May I ask if it's a demon? I want to call the police. Call the police. Chief. My master. At this moment, Xianxia's mind finally cleared up. She also remembered why she appeared here. Qin Guang covered her mouth. All right, no need to say more. I understand, I'll go and rescue them now. I surrender. This time, Liuli didn't persuade him to be a coward. Because if the mission fails, he will die. He didn't notice that among the 55 hostages calculated by the Holy Grail, there was one more than the 54 people he sent out. Chapter 773. Save them. Xianxia didn't expect Qin Guang to have such a big reaction. She just felt uneasy. It was a little like the folk saying that the left eyelid twitching is a blessing and the right eyelid twitching is a curse. However, she didn't expect the situation to be so serious that they had to save them. Moreover, with her and Qin Guang's abilities, it would be useless even if they rushed over now. Her master and Wu Miaowan's master were famous skin strength experts. Their skills were much stronger than bone strength martial artists like her and Wu Miaowan. However, Qin Guang nodded. That's right. Save them. Xianxia still thought he was joking. But how are we going to go? They're overseas now. Qin Guang shrugged. It's not how we're going, it's me. Wait, it sounds like you want to go too? Xianxia glared. Of course, that's my master. He's not your master. Qin Guang patted her shoulder. Your master will be happy that you can think that way. However, forget it. You can't meddle in this. Why can't I meddle? Xianxia said stubbornly. How could Qin Guang tell her that her master and his group were all involved in the punishment realm? Don't underestimate the punishment realm of the old man's heavenly holy grail. I'm trembling with fear just thinking about what I'm going to face now. 10 times the strength, the real world and the real world were completely integrated. Qin Guang felt that it wouldn't be strange even if there was a Godzilla monster waiting for him there. Only he, the owner of the Holy Grail, could survive such a terrifying situation. As for the others, they should just forget about it. Shut up. The adults are doing things. Go play somewhere else. Waving his hand, Qin Guang strode out of his house. At the same time, he was pondering in his heart. It's one thing for Xianxia to take the risk with him, but if it's possible, he should borrow some troops from the old man or the baldy. Just as this thought emerged in his mind, the heavenly Holy Grail gave him a hint. Attention, Redeemer. You are forbidden from seeking external help. Otherwise, the mission will fail and you will die immediately. Can't you be more reasonable? Can't I just think about it in my heart? Forget it, it seems like I really can't do it. I admit defeat. Ever since he obtained the Holy Grail and was forcefully tied to the ship, he had enjoyed a lot of benefits, and the scams he had done weren't that bad either. He really didn't know what was going on. After being cheated so many times, his nerves had become big and his ability to withstand pressure was very strong. If it was in the past, his tears would really flow. But now, everything seemed to be very natural and natural. I've been tricked so many times that I'm numb to it. There's something wrong with my mind. There's no need for me to treat it. That's it. If I can't rely on external forces, shouldn't they at least give me some help? Right now, I had trained my muscles to 70%, but there were still 30% of my weaknesses. I didn't know any special agent skills or firearms. If I had a gun in my hand, it would probably take me half a day to find the safety. The strength of my fists and kicks wasn't a problem. I could kill gods and Buddhas if I met gods and Buddhas. However, my opponents wouldn't honestly compete with me in terms of strength. They could turn me into a hornet's nest at any moment. In addition, the combat techniques that Qin Guang had mastered were mostly unorthodox hand-to-hand combat techniques that he had learned in the Sea of Transient. There weren't any well-formed routines, and he wasn't like an inner force martial artist who could channel his inner force into his muscles. He also wasn't like a special agent who had highly efficient killing methods. He wasn't a soldier king, nor was he a martial arts expert. He was just a great pirate who had drifted on the sea for a few years and knew how to trade injuries for injuries. It wouldn't be a problem for him to act cool and scare one or two opponents or professional boxers. Or it could be the same as when he saved Sun Xiaoxun back then. He could make use of his information advantage and charge out from an unexpected place at lightning speed. He could rely on his overwhelming strength to kill his opponent instantly. He was good at acting cool, but he wasn't good at risking his life. If he didn't show his trump card, he would feel a little anxious. However, what awaited him was the lair of the Shattered World. God knew how many assassins there were in that place. In the end, he didn't get the trump card he wanted. The heavenly Holy Grail in his backpack didn't give him any notifications even when he boarded the military transport plane from Beijing to Mount Baylor. It only gave him a mechanical countdown every half an hour. It was like a death knell telling him that he didn't have much time left to live. Furthermore, he couldn't get rid of Xin Qin. It wasn't that he was stubborn enough to drag Xin Qin into danger. It was just that the little girl's stubbornness was acting up. She wouldn't let him go out without her. What was worse was that he was in the punishment realm. His Holy Grail had taken over this world. He was the child of destiny. No, he was the abandoned child of destiny. Yet he couldn't defeat her. It was really sad. However, although the heavenly Holy Grail forbade him from asking for help from others, it didn't stop Xin Qin from joining it. It was obvious that Xin Qin had been calculated to be his help from the very beginning. In terms of online games, Xin Qin was his teammate. Now the two of them were going to form a party to clear a dungeon. In addition, Uncle Jiang, who was in charge of communicating with him, was quite worried when he suddenly received a request to send him overseas in a military transport plane. However, Qin Guang didn't tell him the truth. He only told him that as the director of the Guangding General Administration, this was his first time sending a task force overseas for a big operation. He wouldn't feel at ease if he didn't personally oversee the operation. Director Qin, why don't we land at an airport near our destination? We don't have to parachute, do we? The instructor of the transport plane sat next to Qin Guang, feeling wronged. All right. The captain was sitting on the other side, holding a pen and paper with a sincere expression. He wrote down every step Qin Guang took. Before they took off, the captain, who had more than 10,000 hours of flying experience, was overshadowed by Qin Guang. Qin Guang had a good reason. He was flying better than him. He was in a hurry, so he had to fly faster. The captain didn't quite understand. Didn't a normal pilot fly the plane at the same speed? Could it be that Qin Guang could race like a car? But forget it. Qin Guang was the director of the Guangding General Administration, and he was also known as the best pilot. Not to mention, the captain also listened to the lessons in the chat room for the last 2 days. He admired Qin Guang from the bottom of his heart. At this moment it was 5 in the morning. Xin Qin was also a little tired and was trying to catch up on her sleep. On the other hand, Qin Guang didn't feel tired at all. On the contrary, he was full of energy. This was probably the first benefit of being the savior. His time seemed to have been reset and every second was filled with energy. No. If we land at the airport and then find a car, I'm afraid we won't make it. Qin Guang decisively rejected the instructor's suggestion. The instructor was helpless to see him being unreasonable and stubborn. But you don't have any experience in parachuting. I'm worried that you, Qin Guang said. Before I successfully landed DL 199333, I didn't have any experience in flying a plane. It's just a parachute. It's not worth mentioning. Isn't it just opening the parachute in the air? I can't faint in the state of weightlessness, right? But, no buts. I'm your superior. I have the final say. This is an order. Hurry up and prepare a parachute for me. Being one rank higher was useful. In the distant Yanjing, baldy old Jiang was helpless when he heard Qin Guang was being unreasonable and stubborn. The back of his head hurt for a while. In order to use this plane in an emergency, It was not as simple as driving it out of the airport. They also had to urgently communicate with neighboring countries. At the same time, they had to temporarily adjust the domestic civil aviation route planning to prevent flight route conflicts in the air. Although the flying altitude of military aircraft was not as high as civil aviation, they couldn't rule out the situation of colliding with the aircraft taking off. It was just a simple takeoff, but it affected the whole situation. The price paid was not simple. Chapter 774. Initially he thought that the area around him should be where the power of the Holy Grail was the densest. However, the moment he crossed the border and entered the neighboring country, he realized that he was wrong. Others could not see any difference, but he clearly realized that although the sky was still the same, the world here was completely different from his own country. The dense power of the Holy Grail was like liquid. If he deliberately tried to sense it, it would even make him feel sticky all over, as if he had fallen into a swamp. Seeing him frown slightly, the captain sitting next to him asked cautiously, "Director Qin, what's wrong? Is there a problem with the plane?" Qin Guang checked the preset autopilot route and sat up. "It's nothing. Take over the plane. I'm going to rest." There was less than an hour before they reached their destination. When they reached the destination, the plane would not land. Qin Guang and Xin Qin would parachute directly. The destination of the two parachuting was the town that the Shattered World Task Force was temporarily staying at, called Utopia. Utopia was located at the foot of Mount Baral. From there they would hike up the mountain and pass through the forest. After about 10 hours they would reach the depths of Mount Baral. If there were no accidents, this operation should be a very standard jungle special operation. Apart from the two martial arts seniors and Wu Miaoan, everyone else had rich experience in this. Of course, the task force would not come together with great fanfare. Instead, they would first quietly land at the military airport of the neighboring country. After that, they would all split up and use various means to reach Utopia. Then they would quietly sneak into the town and hide separately. The former elite employees of the Special Affairs Bureau and the special agents of the Security Bureau had their own means. The two seniors and Wu Miaoan traveled with Xue Lin, disguised as tourists, and stayed at the hotel in Utopia. The neighboring country was also mostly made up of Asians. In addition, Utopia was close to the scenic Mount Baral, so there was a lot of human traffic. The group's stealthy infiltration should not be easily seen through. Xin Qin was sleeping soundly on the wooden bed. She was carefree and had a good sleep. Qin Guang lay on the other wooden bed next to her. He turned his head to look at her, envious of her carefree nature. However, she did not know that the two of them were in the punishment realm. Although she was upset and had a sense of crisis in her chest, it was not surprising that she could sleep. Just what kind of tricks was this punishment realm up to? This thought emerged in Qin Guang's mind again. Although he hadn't slept for a day and a night, his spirit was still so excited and he didn't feel tired at all. He was especially annoyed by this kind of situation. He knew that something would happen, but he still came. He didn't have much time left. However, until now there was still no concrete information. Just now, he secretly picked up Xin Qin's phone and sent a WeChat message to Wu Miaoan, asking her what she was doing. A few seconds later, Wu Miaoan replied, saying that she could not sleep and was scared. But if you asked her what she was afraid of, she didn't know. He asked her if there was anything unusual, but she replied that everything was normal. It was just that there was no signal on the TV, which was a little annoying. It was obvious that Wu Miaoan was in a very safe situation. Otherwise, she would not be in the mood to watch television to relieve her tiredness. But when he told her not to be afraid, she would say something else. Her heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was about to jump out of her throat. She couldn't control her emotions at all. About an hour ago, Wu Miaoan had secretly gone to her master, who was sleeping next to her, who was the beautiful woman in flowery clothes. She hoped to postpone tomorrow's operation, but her request was rejected. Her master's exact words were, "What are you afraid of? This is our first operation since we came to the Guangding General Headquarters. The reason why Abbess Xin Yuan and I came with you is to establish the position of Thousand Despair Sect and Myriad Flower Valley in the Guangding General Headquarters as soon as possible. Don't think that you and Xin Qin are the deputy chiefs, but that's only because we stood on the side early and the two of you are valued by Qin Guang. That's why you have today's position. Now that more and more sects are joining us, it's different. Even plainclothes sect and fist sect of the 8 major sects have come in person, and 7 out of the 27 sects have come. There are crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the general headquarters. If we don't pay attention, we'll lose our position. You guys, don't be ignorant just because you're by Qin Guang's side. It's easy to start a business, but it's hard to keep it. Our Myriad Flower Valley and Thousand Despair sect are already declining. If we don't fight, the sects will completely decline. How can I face our ancestors then? Wu Miaoan argued. Head Chief Qin isn't that kind of person. The beautiful woman in flowery clothes patted her head and looked at her disciple with a doting gaze. You're so loyal to Qin Guang. I have nothing to do with the head chief. Xianxia is the one who has something to do with him, not me. The beautiful woman in flowery clothes smiled without saying a word. I know. That's why I asked you to come with me to train you, right? First of all, there's nothing between you and Qin Guang. So, no matter what kind of person Qin Guang is, it has nothing to do with you. I'm sure of one thing. You're not considered one of his people now. Besides, how many men were good people? Today he'll pledge his undying love to you, but tomorrow he'll fall in love with the new. If you don't learn some real skills from me, how will you make him submit obediently? Master. Wu Miaoan recalled the things that her master had taught her these past few days. Her face turned red and her heart raced. She was ashamed and resentful. I've really misjudged you. I didn't expect Master to be this kind of person. Alright, I should have thought of it a long time ago. It's just that I wasn't mentally prepared. I'll have a day like this too. Don't act like a spoiled child. Do you think that it's over with just one success? Do you think that your little bit of skill is enough? In your dreams. Actually, I'm still worried. You're too ignorant. In my opinion, you should pull Xianxia along as well. The two of you will be tied to the same boat. That way you'll be able to sit back and relax. Master. Alright. We still have business to attend to tomorrow. Go and rest first. We'll talk another day. In short, you have to know that the glory you and Xianxia have now is only on the surface. If one doesn't think about the future, they'll have to worry about the present. Not only can we not postpone tomorrow's operation, we have to do it beautifully. Tomorrow you'll be by my side. Although your skills are a little lacking, you'll definitely have no problem dealing with ordinary people. Just like that, Wu Miaoan was forcefully pushed back to her room by her master, Wu Qingming. Qin Guang knew that the task force was still very safe. He had also thought of summoning them back, but just as the thought surfaced in his mind, it was rejected by the heavenly Holy Grail. Unlike the previous reminder, it did not warn him not to do so. Instead, it bluntly told him that the retreat order would not succeed because they were already trapped. Qin Guang was even more bewildered. Wu Miaoan's reply clearly stated that they were currently hiding in their respective hiding places. Xuelin was still communicating with everyone, so where did she get the idea of being trapped come from? That was ridiculous. Around 7 in the morning, the instructor of the transport plane walked over with 2 backpacks and said, Director Qin will be arriving at Wuduo town soon. Here are 2 parachute bags. You must remember the main points of parachuting just now. Qin Guang nodded. Got it. Then he knocked Xianxia awake. Wake up, sleepyhead. We're going to parachute. Xianxia opened her sleepy eyes and took the backpack from Qin Guang in a daze. She rubbed her eyes and asked, Are we there yet? Of course. You're still sleeping. Qin Guang tied the backpack on his back while giving instructions to the instructor. The instructor's nagging made Qin Guang really afraid that something would go wrong. He was such a high-ranking official and his first parachute jump was from his own plane. If something went wrong, he would be the scapegoat and he would not be able to handle it. He tugged at Qin Guang's sleeve and pointed to the rope on the right side of the backpack. Director Qin, this is the rope. You must remember it well. After you jump, count to 20 in your heart and pull it. You must use all your strength. Alright, if you don't pull it the first time, don't panic. There's plenty of time to land. You can turn around and manually open the parachute. Hey. Thanks for the reminder, but you really don't have to worry. Qin Guang patted the instructor's shoulder and pointed to Xianxia beside him. Why don't you give her some instructions? The instructor turned to Xianxia again, but she waved her hand impatiently. I heard everything just now. It's just a rope. It's a piece of cake. I've parachuted a few times before. Don't be so long-winded. 3 minutes later, the plane descended to a safe altitude for parachuting. The speed had also slowed down to the critical line. It was time to jump. When Qin Guang jumped out, he could hear the wind whistling in his ears. The gale that blew against his face made it hard for him to breathe. However, he didn't panic in his heart and continued to count down. Although he told the instructor that it was his first parachute jump, it was actually a routine in his pilot training. He just did not deliberately train for it. After all, parachuting was just a simple parachute jump. There was no need for fancy jumps like diving. In fact, he felt very at ease. Anyway, there was still a long way to go. As he counted down, he turned around and faced the sky. He saw that Xianxia had also jumped out of the cabin door. To be honest, parachuting in the fresh morning air under the morning sun really made people feel relaxed and happy. He touched his side and found the rope. Holding it in his hand, he felt more at ease. They were getting closer and closer to utopia. In short, it did not matter what the situation was. Anyway, I'm here. Come, realm of punishment. Let me see how good you are. Right, I seem to have forgotten something. Oh my god. Faster, see. My holy grail is still in the other bag. I didn't take it off on the plane. Faster, see. Damn it. Fortunately, I had the communicator on my waist. I gave the old man 2 seconds to calm down. Then I let that damn instructor throw me down. At this time, about 100 meters behind Qin Guang, Xianxia seemed to be searching for something. Qin Guang narrowed his eyes slightly. Although he was far away, Xianxia's pale little face was exceptionally clear in his fiery eyes that relied on the divine dart technique. Something was wrong. Something was really wrong. She seemed to be panicking. Xianxia began to twist her body, trying to find the so-called emergency switch. She also turned her body in a circle. In the next second, when Qin Guang saw the bag on her back, he instantly understood what was going on. Isn't that my F***king bag? Xianxia also stared blankly at the bag that was pulled to her side. Her whole body froze in the air. A heart-wrenching scream came from the walkie-talkie. Who was that instructor? Director Qin. Deputy Director Xian took the wrong bag. Qin Guang covered his face. Sigh. Xianxia was also dumbfounded. She clearly remembered that she took the parachute bag. Why did she take the wrong one? Why was this happening? Wasn't that instructor very responsible? Why didn't he notice it before she jumped down? Qin Guang's back was facing the wind. His heart was cold. So exciting. Just now, the electronic voice of the Holy Grail sounded again. Warning. Warning. The first stage of the realm of punishment has arrived. Supreme bad luck. Pray for the best. Just like that, the overly exciting journey to the punishment realm appeared in front of the two of them in a dazzling manner, catching them off guard. Chapter 775. Damn you, you better pray for yourself. Why did these words sound so annoying? How could a normal parachute carry the wrong bag? I've been tricked by the heavenly Holy Grail again. This phenomenon was so abnormal and strange that it made one's balls break, okay? Although Xianxia was a little muddle-headed at times, she was actually very reliable. She had been in charge of the Guangdong General Administration for a long time, and she had never made any mistakes. Taking the wrong bag while parachuting was something that could cost one's life was not something that would happen normally. Therefore, just as the heavenly Holy Grail said, he and Xianxia were now shrouded in supreme bad luck. When she was carrying the bag on her back, she was dominated by an inexplicable mysterious force. Her brain froze and she unknowingly took Qin Guang's bag. Unfortunately, Qin Guang's hiking bag was of excellent quality and well made. The straps were almost no different from parachuting bags. Even Xianxia, who boasted that she had parachuted a few times, didn't realize it at all. She even felt that the straps were especially sturdy. Not only that, under the influence of supreme bad luck, the originally serious and responsible transport counselor put too much attention on Qin Guang, the director of the Guangdong General Administration. As for Xianxia, who was a deputy, she acted very professionally, confidently, and impatiently. The counselor didn't notice it, and the result was like this. Qin Guang silently picked up the communicator on his waist and said to the counselor inside, I already know. What should we do? The counselor was still wailing at the top of his voice. You're asking me? The counselor was stunned. Yes, he was the counselor on the plane. He was supposed to guide Qin Guang and Xianxia in parachuting. What should he do when something like this happened? There was no point. Xianxia heard the entire conversation between Qin Guang and the counselor through the communicator, but her mind was blank. She didn't know what she was thinking and just stared blankly at the sky above her head, which was getting farther and farther away. At this moment she only had one thought in her mind. It's over, I'm going to die. No matter how powerful a martial artist was, it was impossible to survive falling from such a height. Qin Guang. Xianxia was still falling. She picked up the communicator and called Qin Guang's name weakly. Qin Guang quickly responded, "Okay, I'm listening, I'm listening." Xianxia gulped and said, "I'm going to die." Listening to her desperate tone, Qin Guang wanted to crush the walkie-talkie. "No. You won't die. This was impossible. I won't allow you to die." Xianxia somersaulted in the air and faced Qin Guang, looking at him from afar. The two of them continued to fall. "You don't have to comfort me. I've accepted my fate. Anyway, thank you for understanding my stubbornness for so long. You're not willful at all. How considerate. Don't worry, you really don't worry. I'm thinking of a way. I definitely have a way." Qin Guang subconsciously wanted to ask Luli for help, but he suddenly realized that the heavenly holy grail was in the backpack on Xianxia's back. He didn't know if it was because after the real world and the real world merged he was also considered to be in the world in the cup. He actually couldn't return to Cloud City. His frantic shouting in his heart was useless. Maybe Luli chose to ignore him on purpose, or maybe Luli couldn't hear his calls for help at all. In short, he couldn't count on Luli and the heavenly holy grail. He had to rely on Luli's blessings. "Qin Guang, actually, don't talk, don't interrupt my thoughts. I'm thinking of a way. Actually, I quite like you." "Shut up." Xianxia's eyes gradually became misty. "Let me talk a little more. I won't have a chance to talk to you in the future. Although I'm not good with words sometimes and I often laugh at you and bully you from time to time, I actually just want you to pay more attention to me." "I almost believed you." Qin Guang interrupted her again. He didn't believe what Xianxia said at all. Although he had always been confident, he wasn't conceited. "Although I'm handsome, I'm really not that handsome to the point where I can charm everyone I see, right? Besides, you're just a little Lolita. I feel that you're still underage and can only look but not eat. What's the use of you liking me?" At this moment Xianxia must be saying these because she felt that she was definitely going to die. Her brain short-circuited and confused. She wanted to use these words to leave more impressions in his mind. She was afraid that she would be quickly forgotten after death. "Must be like this. Forget it if you don't believe me. Anyway, it's like this. Anyway, I'm very happy to know you in this life. I hope that I can know you from the beginning in my next life." When a person was about to die, his words were kind. Since she got to know Qin Guang, when had Xianxia been so easy to talk to? "Got it." Suddenly, Qin Guang shouted. "Got what?" Xianxia didn't understand. Qin Guang said quickly like a machine gun, "You adjust your posture like a fish. That's right, try to reduce the wind resistance and speed up the fall." Just now he was confused because he was worried. In fact, Xianxia could still be saved. When Xianxia heard this, she glanced at him again and tried to twist her body again. As expected of a martial artist, even though she knew that she was going to die, she was still able to force herself to calm down. She twisted her body slightly and really became like a cannonball. She stretched out her hands, and in this way the speed at which she was falling was actually a little faster. "That's it. Keep this posture." As Qin Guang said, he opened his arms and forced himself to lie down and fall down. His falling speed was a little slower than before. The two of them, one fast and one slow, slowly pulled closer to each other. "Are you going to catch me and share a parachute?" Xianxia straightened her neck and asked. Qin Guang answered, "Of course." Xianxia looked at the ground in front of her and calculated in her mind for a moment. The height seems to be not enough. And this parachute should be designed for a single person, right? Can the two of us handle it? Qin Guang curled his lips indifferently. "Who cares? Let's do it first. How will we know if we don't try? But if we fail, you will die too, right? Why do I have to be so cautious? I don't have time to think about what might happen. Let's try first. Hey, you'd better be obedient and maintain this posture. Don't think about dying alone, that kind of bullsh*t. Anyway, I will keep this posture until I catch you. If you don't want to kill me, behave yourself." Xianxia blushed. She really wanted to change to Qin Guang's posture just now to let him know that he couldn't catch her and let him back off. But as soon as this thought popped up in her mind, it was seen through. Since she met Qin Guang, although Xianxia was taken care of by him, most of the time, Qin Guang was quite unreliable. Most of the time he was quite chinibu. His success was mostly due to luck. Xianxia felt very relaxed when she got along with Qin Guang, and she liked the feeling of working with him. So she resolutely gave up her identity as the president of the Armed Escort Association and became Qin Guang's little follower. On the surface, it was because hanging out with Qin Guang could make it easier to promote national darts with his influence in the darts industry. In fact, the real reason was not so complicated. It was nothing more than that it was fun to hang out with Qin Guang, that was all. As for becoming the deputy director of the Guangdong General Administration, it was an accessory that she got by chance. Her master, the sword-wielding nun who was also Abbess Xen Yuan, paid special attention to this matter. She didn't care as much as she imagined. Xianxia was actually a very casual person. She didn't think much about the future. But at this time she had to admit that she was a little touched, so much so that her heart was pounding. He knew that it was likely that both of them would die, but he didn't care. Why are you doing this? I really didn't know that you were such a responsible person in the past. If I can really survive this time, I must be a real fan of yours. In midair, the two were still falling. They were getting closer and closer to the ground, and the distance between each other was also getting closer. Seems a little out of reach. Xianxia began to panic. Qin Guang shook his head while slightly adjusting his posture in the air. He made himself move slightly sideways during the process of falling, and continued to get closer to Xianxia. The distance between the two had been reduced to less than 10 meters, but they were probably less than 3 kilometers away from the ground. It's really too late. Why don't you open your auxiliary umbrella and try to catch up? Qin Guang looked back at the ground, then turned back to look at Xianxia. He shook his head. Don't worry, I have calculated it. I can catch you when you are 400 meters away from the ground. Stop it. Your brain isn't a calculator. How did you calculate it? Qin Guang snorted. Intuition. Don't pin your life on such unreliable intuition. What else can I do? Qin Guang snorted. Suddenly his pupils shrank. It's time. Xianxia was at a loss. What time is it? The next moment, under her dumbfounded gaze, Qin Guang curled his body in the air and took off his trousers. He then tied a knot at lightning speed. After that he grabbed the trousers with both hands and lifted them up high. A strong gust of wind poured into the trousers, causing them to clap. This artificial parachute slowed down the speed of his descent. Thanks to the high quality of this year's new Versace autumn wear, such a strong tearing force did not tear the trousers. Xianxia was dumbfounded. You can do that? I just thought of an idea. Alright, take off your trousers and throw them away. That way your wind resistance will be lower. It will definitely work. Don't blame me for not realizing it until now. My brain is also quite stiff at this time. Humans were like this. When they were forced into a desperate situation, their potential had to be unleashed bit by bit. Old Master Guang's wit was not something that could jump out at once. He had to slowly squeeze it out bit by bit. Xianxia did as she was told. Her movements were simpler and more violent. She exerted force with both hands and tore the trousers. 2 seconds later, her 2 slender white legs were straightened in the air. If it wasn't for the fact that everyone was in a bad situation, Qin Guang really felt that Xianxia's legs were actually quite pleasing to the eye. They were really beautiful under the morning sun. What supreme bad luck. In front of the old man's wit, it was nothing. The speed at which the two of them approached increased a little. You've torn your bag and clothes too. Qin Guang shouted again. Since there was a telepathic connection between him and the heavenly Holy Grail, he was not afraid that he would not be able to find it after falling. Thus Qin Guang thought of a new idea. 3 seconds later, Xianxia's clothes were torn again. She pushed her backpack back with force, providing her with a little more strength to go down. Her fair and beautiful body accelerated towards Qin Guang. This girl was actually not wearing the underwear of ordinary women. Instead, she was wearing a bra without straps. It seemed that she had been practicing yoga recently and really cared about this matter. A gust of wind blew hard on her body. Xianxia actually felt quite ashamed. This was not a deserted house. They were in the air in broad daylight. However, the effect of her clothes being torn was also very obvious. She was falling like a cannonball and her speed really became faster. The distance between the two of them rapidly decreased from 8 meters to 7 meters, 6 meters, 5 meters, 4 meters, 3 meters. Almost there. Almost there. Qin Guang focused his eyes and stared at Xianxia, who was getting closer and closer to him. Xianxia looked at the ground behind Qin Guang and felt very anxious. But the ground is getting closer and closer. It doesn't matter. Ah! Suddenly Xianxia screamed. It was very simple. Without the shoulder straps, the strong wind brushed past the surface of her body. First, a crease appeared on her chest and then she felt an even stronger pulling force. In the blink of an eye, her chest slipped off her body. Not only that, when it passed by her panties, it even pulled out the folds of her panties, causing them to fly off as well. However, at this moment life and death were hanging by a thread. Xianxia did not dare to change her diving posture. She could only let her bra and underwear fall far away from her. The fair and beautiful lowly body continued to dive down from the sky. Behind her, a black bra and black silk panties floated in the air. How beautiful! Xianxia did not know whether she was shy or excited because she was about to be caught by Qin Guang and have a chance to live. Her heart was beating like 10,000 deer, and her face was red as if it was scalded by boiling water. Coming. Qin Guang knew the ground behind him was getting closer and closer. However, he did not care about that at all. He only wanted to catch Xianxia. Finally, their 5 fingers collided. Qin Guang swung his body violently and grabbed Xianxia's wrist. Then he pulled hard. The two finally met in the air. Qin Guang exerted his strength and spun his body in the air with her. Hold my waist. Xianxia had no time to be shy and did as he said. The next moment, Xianxia sat on Qin Guang's waist. Qin Guang's hands had never moved so fast. He untied the rope on the waist of the parachute in a flash. Then he reached under Xianxia's crotch and tied her thighs. Then he made a tight knot and tied the two of them together. Hold me tight. You must hold me tight. There is no time. I can only fix my legs. Even if you break my ribs, you can't let go. Qin Guang shouted. Xianxia nodded heavily. We are going to the bottom. I know. Qin Guang pulled the safety rope and the parachute opened. In a flash, it opened like a mushroom cloud above their heads. The rope on Qin Guang's back and waist lifted him up. His falling speed was suddenly reduced. Xianxia, who was riding on Qin Guang's waist, was about to turn over in the blink of an eye because only her thighs were tied to the rope. Harder. Break my ribs. After all, Xianxia was a martial artist at the peak of bone strength. Once she exerted her strength, she was not an ordinary person. Qin Guang only felt a creaking sound coming from his back. He was really going to be broken. Their center of gravity was not coordinated. Xianxia was still being pulled down. She tightened her grip on Qin Guang's waist and opened her legs. But she was still falling down. Suddenly, a certain part of Qin Guang's body suddenly pushed up. Then with lightning speed he drilled into a part of her body that was opened because of this embarrassing position. Xianxia screamed. Qin Guang said righteously, "You can't blame me. When I was helping you with the rope, I accidentally touched the seam and was a little stimulated. Moreover, you are not wearing it. I can't control myself at all. Also, my part is very strong. One more fulcrum, one more safety." Yes, that's right. Air refueling, docking successful. Chapter 776. Xianxia and Qin Guang faced each other, grabbing his back tightly. She didn't know if it was because she was afraid of falling or because she couldn't control her body. Hey, be gentle, be gentle. Are you really trying to strangle me to death? At first Qin Guang was still holding it in, but he couldn't take it anymore. His bones were cracking as if they were about to break. I was just being polite when I asked you to break my ribs. Now that the situation is stabilized, don't take it seriously. If I don't shout, I'll get through the most dangerous moment and get seriously injured by you. Wouldn't that be a waste of my life? Xianxia was about to cry. Let go of me. Qin Guang asked quietly, "Are you sure?" Although the parachute had been opened and the speed at which they were falling had slowed down, they were still at least 200 meters from the ground. Xianxia turned to look to the side, then turned back and shook her head like a rattled drum. Don't let go of me. As she spoke, she tried to move her body up again, trying to break free from the invasion of something. However, Qin Guang had tied their legs so tightly that she couldn't move them. After a long time it was useless, so she stopped moving and looked at Qin Guang pitifully. Actually, Qin Guang had wanted to take the opportunity to do something, but seeing how pitiful she looked, he felt awkward and didn't think too much about it. Sighing, Qin Guang said helplessly, "Hey, if I said that I didn't mean it and that it was an accident, would you believe me?" Xianxia didn't say anything and continued to stare at Qin Guang. Qin Guang felt guilty under her gaze. "It's true. Believe me. It was really just a coincidence. How could I have known it would be so accurate? An accident. It was an accident." Xianxia was about to cry. "I know it was an accident." Qin Guang was extremely distressed. "Then don't look at me like that, okay? I'm feeling creepy. I can't control my emotions. I can't do anything about it. Although I just confessed to you this is a little too fast." As Xianxia spoke, she patted Qin Guang's shoulder fiercely. No one knew whether she was acting coquettishly or feeling wronged. Then she said, "We're about to land. You come out first." Qin Guang shrugged helplessly. "I can't get out." "Then can you soften first? What do you think?" "All right, forget it, sigh." Xianxia didn't say anything, and Qin Guang didn't know what to say in this situation. The two of them stared at each other and the atmosphere was rather awkward. Are they on good terms? Of course. Was there a possibility that the two of them would develop into such a situation in the future? Of course there were, not to mention that Xianxia had just confessed to Qin Guang. But was this situation normal? Of course it wasn't normal. Who would have thought that something like this would actually happen? Just a few seconds ago Xianxia was still confessing, and it was the kind of last words that were equivalent to leaving behind a will before death. She would only say a lot of things that she didn't dare to say normally, and she wasn't really mentally prepared. In the end, in the blink of an eye, they connected in the air. This kind of development was completely unexpected to Xianxia and Qin Guang. Not even the gods could have thought of it. Therefore, this was one of the disadvantages of the strongest piledriver in history. His reaction was also a little too fast. When Xianxia approached just now, Qin Guang accidentally glanced at her a few more times. When he grabbed her and spun her in the air, he accidentally touched a slightly more sensitive spot. When he tied the rope for her, he accidentally touched a slightly more sensitive spot. It sounded complicated, but the whole process added up to less than 15 seconds. Who would have thought that the thief's reaction would be so fast and fierce? Who would have thought that when Xianxia sat down, she just happened to press down CK's underwear? Then there was a slurping sound. Cough cough. Forget it. It would be a waste of time to talk about these things. Although Qin Guang would flirt with Xianxia from time to time, he really didn't think of doing such a beastly thing. Although Xianxia always said that she was already an adult, in Qin Guang's opinion, this little girl was still too young and too cute. Why did I sigh? He sighed heavily again. From now on, how should I face my life? Can I still proudly tell others that I am an upright person? This was not the most awkward thing. The most awkward thing was that he still couldn't take it out. Xianxia seemed to have accepted her fate. She tilted her head and looked at him. "Why are you sighing? Why? Do you feel that you have suffered a loss?" Qin Guang shook his head. "No, I just feel uncomfortable." Xianxia blushed. "What are you uncomfortable about?" "My conscience is uncomfortable. I really feel uncomfortable." Xianxia suppressed the discomfort and rolled her eyes. She didn't know what to say to him. Forget it. Look at him. Anyway, this was the current situation. She might as well accept her fate. Actually, I don't blame you. It's just that you weren't mentally prepared. All of a sudden, Qin Guang recalled something and asked, "Oh, right. Let me ask you something. Are you really 18? Xianxia bit his shoulder harshly. "I told you long ago that I'm 18 years old. Why don't you believe me?" Sigh. Qin Guang started to sigh again. Hence, a woman's mood was really a very complicated thing. Although Xianxia didn't look very reliable, she was still an authentic woman deep down. At the beginning she felt very aggrieved. In the end, when Qin Guang showed such a melancholy expression, she became more and more unhappy. She felt that Qin Guang was taking advantage of her and was still pretending to be innocent. "That's enough. Suddenly Xianxia looked at him fiercely. Qin Guang looked like he was about to cry. What's the matter now? What's the matter now? Xianxia glared at him angrily. Do you want to anger me to death? How can you be so unreasonable? You have a bad conscience, my ass. Do you think I'm that kind of petty person? Did I blame you for anything? No, I really didn't. Qin Guang lied through his teeth. She clearly slapped, scratched and hit him, but at this time it was more important to make her happy. Xianxia said again, that's it. Besides, people who practice martial arts, people of the pugilistic world, don't have so many rules. Qin Guang's eyes widened. He thought that he had underestimated little Xianxia. Such reasonable words actually came out of her mouth, and it seemed like she was comforting him. Hey, it's okay. It's really not a big deal. We were in an emergency situation. It's not a big deal that this happened. I almost died. You caught me and then we used the same parachute to land safely. It's that simple. The distance between us is a little closer, so it became a negative number. Xianxia patted his shoulder again and said. Qin Guang was very impressed. Thinking about it carefully, what she said really made sense. For some reason he became upright again. Qin Guang said loudly, that's right. Since it happened we should face it together. But now we are about to land and we are not completely out of danger yet. This is the most important thing. Xianxia nodded. Yes. In order to show that she really didn't care, she moved a little, looking very bold and unrestrained. In the end she caused trouble. Originally, Qin Guang had a hard time controlling the piledriver's combat power. This time he really couldn't keep it steady. Ah! Oh my god, oh my god. I can't. You stop. Stop. Qin Guang tried to look at Xianxia calmly the whole time. Even when they landed, he forced his legs to support the ground first, using the strength of his legs to cushion the weight of the two people. Although the speed of the parachute landing was not slow, both of them were physically gifted. Although Qin Guang's chest was still at the level of an ordinary person, the strength of his legs and waist had completely exceeded the limit of a human, not to mention Xianxia. Finally, as Xianxia screamed at the top of her lungs, she finally collapsed to the ground, exhausted. The two of them were pressed under the parachute. Qin Guang lay flat on the ground as a human head cushion, covering his face, extremely helpless. Xianxia clawed at him randomly, screaming. When Xianxia finally settled down, Qin Guang carefully untied the knot and slowly put her down. As expected of a martial artist at the peak of bone strength, she actually didn't completely faint. Instead, she trembled on the ground and raised her head in a daze to look at him. You bad guy. Actually, old Master Guang was wronged. Really, he had already tried very hard to control himself. In fact, he hadn't even tried so hard in the first half of his life. But it was useless. The piledriver was moving on its own. Alas, if I had really done something bad, you would be foaming at the mouth and fainting on the ground. You don't know how much effort I've put into my plan. However, the two of them didn't have much time to dawdle. The heavenly Holy Grail didn't give Qin Guang any time to catch his breath. The first test, Supreme Misfortune, was successfully passed. The second test. Qin Guang stared at the umbrella cover with his head as his heart raced. He thought to himself, what would the second test be? The second test, Supreme Unrivaled Misfortune. Savior, please be prepared. F***CK. Can you be any more boring? Can you play some new tricks other than making me unlucky? The third test, Kill a Great Earthquake Tremor. A double test. Savior, please pray for your own good. F***CK. I just said it for fun. I didn't tell you to play any new tricks right away. What the hell is the third test before the second test is over? My mouth is a little too open. I'm done for. It's here. The familiar praying for your own good. Who are you, Duo Fu? What kind of dirty deal do you have with the Holy Grail? You stole the show today, Duo Fu. I don't want to beg you at all. Wait, what's a great earthquake tremor? I jumped out of the plane and originally planned to land near Wuxia town. But because I opened the parachute too late, I landed a lot earlier. So I should be a few kilometers away from Wuxia town now. But I should still be on Earth, right? It's at most 1,000 or 800 kilometers away from our vast Wuxia, right? But why did an even more baffling earthshaker suddenly appear out of nowhere? What the hell is going on? While his mind was full of questions, he felt the ground shake violently, as if a huge monster had landed not far away from him and Xianxia. There was no time to think. Qin Guang got up, spread out his hands and grabbed the parachute curtain tightly. He used his Qilin arm and tore the parachute apart. Xen Qin, who was still resting on the ground, screamed, "What are you doing? I'm not dressed yet." The next second Zhong Xen Qin stopped screaming. She and Qin Guang turned their heads and stared blankly at the 3-meter-tall monster not far away. Its whole body was made of yellow rock, but it was clearly in the shape of a human. This huge monster stood proudly about 20 meters away from the two of them. It had a head but no face. Its body was slightly arched and it was disproportionately long. Its arms, which were about half a meter thick, swayed in front of its body. Seemed to be very strong. As its body swayed, countless tiny dust and pebbles fell from its body. But what was even more strange was that at the same time, many pebbles and yellow mud floated up from the ground and stuck to its body, completely defying gravity. The pebbles and sand fell and floated up again, causing the yellow sand around the so-called Great Earthquake Tremor to fly. It looked really strange and indescribable. As if sensing Qin Guang's gaze, the Great Earthquake Tremor raised its 2 stone arms high and hammered its chest fiercely. The smoke and dust became even thicker. It was actually roaring. It didn't even have a mouth, so how did it make this sound? What is this? What is this? What the F***CK? What exactly is the real world? This doesn't look real at all, okay? Qin Guang finally lost his composure and screamed out loud. The world of punishment this time was really beyond his imagination. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.